In a small restaurant where monsters lurk every day, three people are casually enjoying their time as if nothing is happening, because in this little eatery there are two dragons. Alongside the owner, the strongest person in the 5 realms who once defeated the Demon King in the underworld when he was still naive, he was summoned there to become a hero, gradually stepping up to fight alongside his comrades. He faced countless challenges over the years to finally defeat the Demon King and return to this place. Now the powerful one whose fate even the prophecies dare not predict is weary and wants to let go of everything to fulfill his long-held dream of opening a small restaurant. He wishes to live simple days like everyone else, but the world is no longer the same as when he was summoned away. Monsters from the 5 realms are invading the village one after another, making the once obscure restaurant even more desolate until today, when a flock of chicken-like monsters suddenly crossed through this area. He, wanting to gather some free ingredients, took action to ask for some meat, causing the extraordinary beings to have no choice but to find a place to sit and chat about their superb skills and nostalgic dishes. This made them fascinated, and day by day, this quiet restaurant became livelier, along with heaps of thrilling stories they brought each time they entered. After a terrifying battle, the city was shrouded in a gloomy hue with a crumpled white car blaring an emergency warning about a horde of level 4 monsters. Bento has appeared at the intersection. The demon squad currently mobilized includes a level 2 awakened fighter, the merchant Gam Sanghu, along with the Genkaku group. The entire vehicle was flipped upside down by a violent earthquake, and a strong figure of a man rushed in to attack the giant monster, stopping to catch his breath. He looked up at the monster that was 30 times his size, waiting for something. The horde of monsters suddenly took a deep breath, causing their necks to swell. Then they opened their mouths and let out a terrifying scream that shook the heavens and the earth. This man's name is Kim Sanghu. He swung his sword in a desperate attempt to resist constantly complaining that there were only 10 of them, yet it felt like his ears were about to burst from the noise. Kim Sanghu jumped from the ground, creating a massive explosion. He soared high above the dust, gripping a long spear filled with powerful energy. Preparing to strike, he shouted loudly, and suddenly the monsters below flinched. Kim Sanghu also noticed something unusual and glanced toward the source of the light. From the sun between the buildings, a blinding ray of light erupted, causing the monsters to stare intently. In an instant, that light shot down, severing the heads of all the monsters. In the blink of an eye, Kim Sanghu witnessed that scene. He could only stand there in a daze, mumbling, "What was that?" Just as he landed in confusion, a woman ran over, joyfully exclaiming, "Captain, it really is you!" Taking down this many monsters in a single blow, Kim Sanghu bluntly denied the achievement, saying, "It wasn't me. I'm not the main damage dealer. I specialize in area attacks like the Sword Queen," he said, then turned to the monsters from earlier, questioning the girl. "Are there any other awakened fighters sent here besides us?" "No." She shook her head. "I haven't heard anything." Kim Sanghu put his hand on his chin, pondering. "That's strange. As far as I know, there's no one in the country with this level of power." Suddenly, the girl noticed the purple monster crystal and spoke. "They took down the monsters but left the crystal behind." "That's the most valuable part." Kim Sanghu, confused, continued, "What on earth is going on here?" He frowned, imagining someone thinking that based on the clean cuts on the bento monsters, this must have been done by an awakened fighter, demonstrating power at least above level A. Or maybe level 5, and they vanished without a trace. What could their purpose be? After thinking for a moment, Kim Sanghu said that for now, they should gather the stone spirits and contact the headquarters to call the cleanup team. The girl immediately responded clearly to the team leader. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to something, a restaurant still intact amidst the ruins. Kim Sanghu felt it was strange. A restaurant called Star Restaurant. He looked up and chuckled, mumbling that if that pervert only dug out the breast parts of those bentos and made a mistake, those corpses would have fallen over to this side by now. The owner of the restaurant is quite lucky. Kim Sanghu turned around, lazily stretched his muscles, and told the others, "Let's go. I'm in the mood to have a few drinks right after the battle ends." The sun was already high, shining down on the birds perched on the white car. Seeing a man approaching, the birds flapped their wings in fear and flew away. His hair was soaked, and he was using a towel to wipe the water rolling down his face. The man casually pushed the door and entered his own shop, stepping into the familiar kitchen. He pressed the switch to turn on the stove, then took a shiny pan and went to the huge meat cabinet, along with the cooking spices and stone spirits with his slender hands. Gently placing the fresh pink meat on the table, he leaned on it, letting out a sound as if he was calculating something. This is Kang Cheon-ho, the owner of this lucky restaurant. He looked down at this piece of meat on the table puzzled, wondering if he had sliced too much bento meat. Speaking of which, Kang Cheon-ho glanced sideways, thinking that the bentos were probably being gathered now, or maybe he should make some dried meat. Suddenly, someone from outside came and knocked on the door. "Is Kang Cheon-ho here?" The man saw him come out and immediately introduced himself. "I'm from the Awakening Association. You are Kang Cheon-ho, right?" He nodded and calmly replied, "Yes." Choi Jong-won, with a serious face, said, "A group of bentos just attacked this area. Fortunately, they were dealt with quickly, but you must have been quite frightened. I'm here to check if you suffered any damage." Kang Cheon-ho raised his hand to the back of his neck and asked, "Oh yes, isn't that just a normal occurrence?" He said with a helpless expression, "They say the world is much more stable now. But things like this still happen occasionally. Luckily, there are hardly any residents around here, so the damage isn't significant." Suddenly, a tempting aroma wafted into Choi Jong-hun's nose. It made him stop, captivated by the scent, exclaiming, "Wow, what smells so good?" Kang Cheon-ho casually replied, It's from the restaurant." Hearing this, Choi Jong-hun suddenly realized his face turning a bit red with embarrassment. He awkwardly asked, "If the restaurant is still open, can I have breakfast?" "I've been running around since dawn and haven't eaten anything." He smiled and nodded in response. "Of course." As soon as he stepped inside, Choi Jong-won looked around in amazement, exclaiming that it looked just like a restaurant from the movies before the teleportation gates appeared. He glanced around and wondered, "Oh, I don't see a menu. Can you show me the menu?" Kang Cheon-ho replied, "Oh, we don't have a menu. We cook based on the ingredients we have each day." Hearing this, Choi Jong-won sat down and asked, "So is there a special dish today?" He, in the kitchen, wearing an apron, said, "There might be." Kang Cheon-ho turned around and smiled, introducing, "Today, we have bento steak." Hearing this, he was slightly startled, mumbling, "Bento, huh?" Choi Jeon-hun recounted, "It must be from the ones earlier. I saw 10 of them. Luckily, Master Gam Sang-hoo handled them. They seemed to head straight to the market." Kang Cheon-ho was pouring milk into the pan while saying, "Thanks to that, I got some fresh bento meat. They are really fierce, but the meat is absolutely delicious." Choi Zeon still couldn't believe it and asked again about the bento meat. He invited her to try cooking a steak, and Choi Zeon felt a bit awkward, responding with a hint of excitement, "Wow, that sounds interesting." Inside, he whispered to himself, feeling conflicted, "Steak, really? I thought this was just a casual eatery. I wonder if I have enough money." Returning to the tidy kitchen, Kang Cheon-ho gently sliced a large piece of meat, expertly seasoning it for the bento preparation. Lost in old memories, 35 years ago, before I woke up, I was summoned to another world where dragons soared and monsters roamed. I was summoned to another world. Although it was overwhelming, I had to struggle to survive. Time passed as I faced powerful monsters and my expression became calmer. A battle with the dragon was tough, but in the end, I defeated it. After gaining strength greater than that of dragons, I finally defeated the Demon King. And by chance, I was able to return to Earth, but the soul I once knew had vanished. The entire city was being ravaged by monsters descending from above. Kang Cheon-ho sprinkled pepper while reflecting on the 35 years spent fighting the Demon King and the overwhelming sight of monsters. I mastered their weaknesses and how to deal with them perfectly, but upon returning and seeing everyone, I wondered if they still needed my help. A human from Earth with their own ways and rules is protecting this world. This era has really become like this. Finishing his thoughts, he poured sauce over the steak, which smelled heavenly. Kang Cheon-ho smiled at his creation, feeling a sense of pride. This luxurious dish is the bento steak made from premium chicken breast and a special sauce. He gently pushed the plate toward Choi Joan, inviting, "Here, give it a try." Seeing it, she had to sit up, sweating and drooling, amazed. "Wow, I just intended to fill my stomach and leave. But this dish is too amazing." She cautiously brought a piece to her mouth, hoping to taste it. As soon as she tasted its deliciousness, Choi Zeon widened her eyes in shock, looking at the plate of meat in front of her, exclaiming, "This is incredible. It's so juicy," she thought to herself. "Those bentos tortured me all morning, and now they're causing trouble like this. It feels like it's soothing my tense nerves." Not the time to think Choi Zeon urged herself, chewing on the premium meat made by Kang Cheon-ho, not even bothering to wipe her messy mouth. She closed her eyes, her face flushed, lost in delight. Right, no matter how expensive it is, let's enjoy it to the fullest today. After finishing the plate of meat, Choi Zeon boldly pointed the plate forward, calling out, "Hey, can I get another bento steak?" Kang Cheon-ho immediately replied, "Sure." Feeling a bit dissatisfied, I hunted these for myself, but after finishing the next plate, Choi Zeon sighed and said, "So delicious. Can I get the bill, please?" He casually replied, "I won't charge you for your first visit." Upon hearing this, she was utterly astonished, saying, "No way, this is amazing. Thanks to you all, my fatigue has vanished." "It's all gone. I will definitely come back often, so I want to pay." Seeing her sincerity, Kang Cheon-ho smiled and added, "Then it's just $10. She immediately placed the bill next to the plate, saying, "All right." Before leaving, Choi-jun also expressed her gratitude for the meal. "By the way," he asked back a bit confused, "Yes." She, feeling a bit worried, reminded, "Please stay safe. In these times, people like you and me who haven't awakened will have a tough time next time a monster shows up nearby. Remember to evacuate quickly." Saying that you handed over your business card to me, saying this is my card. Compared to a few years ago, when this place was almost a wasteland, the cafes, bars, and markets have started to sprout up again. But it's still very dangerous, so if anything happens, please call me. Thank you for the meal. Kang Cheon-ho quietly read the contents on the fake Awakening Association card. National Hunter Association, Choi Ju Patrol Team 17, a CEO from Daemun-gu, a special city, then narrowed his eyes and mumbled about the hard times for those who haven't awakened. He immediately turned back to the kitchen with thoughts that he wasn't a bad person living long enough. Okay? A little later, Kang Cheon-ho returned with another. A plate of juicy bento meat. He gently cut a piece and put it in his mouth, savoring it, and couldn't help but murmur to himself, just as expected, it was really delicious. Time passed by in a flash. Outside, the sky had darkened, and an owl stood confused on a branch looking down inside the restaurant. He stretched happily, thinking about another smooth business day. "I'll make a drink and then go inside." Kang Cheon-ho glanced at the colorful eggs, wondering if he should make something to snack on with the bento eggs he bought earlier. How should I cook them? Suddenly, a strange person. The door to the restaurant swung open forcefully, and a young man with red hair named Khan coldly spoke, "There you are." Hearing that Kang Cheon-ho glanced at Khan with confusion, he opened his mouth wide and shouted, "I came to get my stuff back a few hours ago at the traditional market." CEO Demon Kang Cheon-ho walked through the bustling crowd, hearing various voices, a type of herbal medicine, along with the cooked bento. "We were buying mana crystals at a high price." He just stepped through the market, looking around, thinking that since the monsters appeared, livestock and fresh vegetables had become their food, making it very difficult to find basic ingredients. People had no choice but to use monsters as a food source, and many were reluctant, but perhaps it was because it tasted better than expected. Or maybe because it was much cheaper now. Artificial farming had provided enough meat and vegetables, but monsters remained a famous food ingredient. Because of that, the scale of the monster market had been able to increase. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a man selling eggs, who was smiling and promoting the eggs. These monster eggs had just been delivered in large quantities. "Take a look," Cheon-ho curiously asked him. "It seemed like the bento eggs had just appeared." The seller replied, "I'm not too sure. The eggs have been checked by the Awakening Association. But monster eggs look very similar, so I can't tell them apart." After hearing that, he immediately used his skill to examine his eyes shining bright purple as he inspected the object before him. Cheon-ho immediately got the information that this was the artifact of Canas, the silver dragon, dominating the northern mountains of this world empire. Granting the ability to see through the nature of a target, the other eggs also provided different information. Item name Raptor S, grade level 4 description. Raptor Claw. After reading, he suddenly remembered that he had stolen it when he caught the Demon King, and until now, it was one of the artifacts he used a lot. Bento Bento Etano Chisarato. because I can know the strength and tendencies of the target and distinguish who is lying or telling the truth. I also don't use it on others. As much as possible. After some deliberation, Qian Ho immediately concluded, I will buy all of these. The seller was extremely delighted and exclaimed, You're buying a lot. He thought to himself that if he knew the truth, he would only regret it. Then suddenly Qian Ho noticed the blue egg and wondered why there was no information about it. He pointed at it and asked the owner, Can I get another one of those eggs? He quickly replied, Yes. After getting home, Qian Ho cracked one of the eggs and poured it into the frying pan, lost in thought about how eating was just a waste of time when he was in the middle of a battlefield. He used to think a good meal was just a luxury. But time passed, and soon only delicious things remained. John Ho produced a new dish called scrambled bento eggs, with the main ingredients being bento eggs and cow milk. People say that food and aroma are great ways to evoke memories. He suddenly remembered when he was on the battlefield, his teammates had asked if there was cow milk in it. So it must be rich, right? At that time, he had just coldly replied, I'm not sure, then thought about how he had eaten this dish with his teammates on the battlefield and casually enjoyed the new dish. Qian Ho quietly remarked that the rich scrambled bento eggs blended well with the cow milk, creating a deep flavor. He also liked its softness. It was really tasty. If he closed his eyes, those memories would flood back the faces he missed. Now he began to remember faces that he could no longer see. He thought, then looked up at the sky outside his tone, sad, wondering if he was really getting old. Then Qian Ho suddenly remembered and turned back mumbling, right. That egg couldn't be detected by the inspection, could it? As far as he knew, a dragon's artifact was formed naturally when a dragon was born by absorbing its power. That's why it exerted tremendous pressure on surrounding creatures, but couldn't be used against its own kind. He gently touched the egg, wondering if this was perhaps a dragon egg. He never expected to buy a dragon egg at the market. What would its flavor be like? What should he cook with it? Suddenly from outside, a stranger barged in, flinging the door open. He looked at the uninvited guest in confusion, while the guy looked around and spoke up. Is this the restaurant? As soon as Khan saw Qian Ho, he quickly said, I came to find my stuff. His eyes glued to the blue egg in Qian Ho's hand, realizing it was here. John Ho, fully alert, used the inspection, thinking he couldn't get any information about that kid, and if he was looking for this egg. He wondered, startling the guy. Are you a dragon? John Ho raised his hand to his chin, amazed that this world also had dragons. He had suspected it before. Meanwhile, Khan over here was furious, nearly shouting, How do you know my identity? His whole body ignited with a raging fire, his red eyes filled with murderous intent as he looked at his opponent. Seeing that Qian Ho just calmly said, You're on fire, Khan was extremely angry, shouting back, I'm leaving. The mortal burned against his anger, and he straightforwardly said, I have no intention of fighting. I have an artifact called inspection information about dragons. It's the only thing I can't see. Khan remained vigilant, asking, Inspection, how does a dragon's artifact end up in your hands? Hearing that Qian leaned against the table, surprised, You know about inspection. Well, that's easy then. Khan immediately recognized that the calm demeanor of the guy wasn't that of an ordinary restaurant owner. How could he stay so composed in front of a dragon? Qian Ho coldly replied, Take it. I'm really glad the master came to find it. I hope you clean up before taking it away. He was furious, his voice small, yet daring to speak to me like that. Suddenly, Khan's attention shifted to the knife hanging above. He exclaimed, Is that dragon scale a weapon? Qian Ho narrowed his eyes and explained, It's a knife, but it can also be a weapon. I often use it in the kitchen. Khan continued to sniff around and discovered more. The smell of that cutting board is dragon bone. He didn't deny it and nodded. These things only made Khan angrier, thinking the value of dragon bones, including scales and flesh, was very high. But he used it as kitchenware. He killed his own kind and used them for cooking. Thinking of this, he shouted, I can't forgive you. Instantly, Khan opened his mouth wide, blowing out a powerful green orb, and yelled, Die, you filthy humans! Seeing his opponent lose control, Qian Ho sighed in resignation. He asked in frustration, Is cleaning up that hard? You made it dirty. But Khan quickly launched the bright green orb filled with powerful lightning towards Qian Ho, attacking him. He immediately swung his pan, muttering, Just as I thought, dragons shouldn't be underestimated. At this point, John Ho paused for a few seconds, narrowing his eyes at the incoming attack, then straightforwardly used the pan to deflect it back towards Khan, leaving him stunned. Khan frowned slightly. He couldn't believe what was happening in front of him and let out a gasp at that moment. John Ho jumped forward with shining eyes, saying, "Don't expect it to listen to you." With that, Khan immediately took a hit from Jian Ho's pan and couldn't retort. He was hit so hard that he felt dazed thoughts swirling in his mind. "Oh, this voice sounds so familiar. Where have I heard it before?" Memories flooded back of Jian Ho in shining armor, gently approaching and speaking. "I will catch the Demon King. I don't have time for boring things, so I'll get straight to the point. Hand over the artifact to me. You won't need it. Then let me make use of it. If you don't cooperate, I'll beat you and take it." The huge fiery red dragon roared in anger. "What nonsense is this crazy human talking about?" "I haven't even finished my sentence." A tiny dragon hand reached out in front of them, whispering, "No, Dad, he's Miralisis. I've seen him 35 times before, so I know he will definitely defeat you." Seeing a bright line in Jian Ho's eyes, he warned, "You shouldn't witness this." Suddenly, Khan snapped out of his daze, sweating, coldly opened his eyes, and shouted. Jian Ho, sitting in a chair, asked, "Han, you're awake. Then let's talk for a bit. I want to discuss cleaning up." He held a hollow glass in his hand and continued, "After you clean up, I'll let you take your stuff. Actually, I don't like dragons much for personal reasons, so if you don't listen to me, I have no choice but to use force." Hearing this, Khan trembled in fear. His mouth couldn't shut, and in the end, he had to comply with him wringing out a wet cloth with a dissatisfied face looking at Khan sulkily as he wiped the floor. Jian Ho, while drinking, spoke up. "It seems you're not a local here, because you know I was born on the continent of Espan not long ago. I fell into this world due to a spatial rift. The continent of Espan is connected to this world. No wonder the monsters look so familiar. This must also come from the Edpan in your place. My name is Miro Likers, and here I am, Kang Jian Ho. Have you heard of me?" Seeing Khan looking confused, Jian Ho teased, "What's wrong? Your hands aren't working." He immediately raised his hand, grumbling, as he wiped the floor, thinking to himself that he knew it was that guy. After a while of reviewing the results, Jian Ho was very satisfied, praising, "Wow, it's really clean. Now you can go get your stuff." Suddenly, Khan had a question. "Why didn't you return my father's artifact after killing the Demon King?" He was puzzled. "Who is your father?" Khan replied, "Ex-Moon Rex." Jian Ho quickly remembered and said, "That torn dragon. No wonder your aura is somewhat similar. You're the child from back then." He raised his voice and replied, "Yes, I met an old acquaintance." Jian Ho excitedly waved his hand, calling him back. "I won't hit you. I stopped hitting dragons 35 years ago." Khan was extremely frightened, huddling in a corner, saying, "But you just hit me. Don't lie. Even though I don't know the age of humans, I know you haven't aged that much." Hearing that, he immediately asked, "How old are you?" Khan raised his hand and mumbled, counting 1, 2. "I remember I'm a bit over 51. He nodded, saying, "So you're about 50. I'm older than you. I'm 60 already." Seeing this, Khan exclaimed in shock, "You're an elf who lives as long as they do." Jian Ho playfully teased, "Am I really that handsome?" Khan blushed and denied, "Not really." He clenched his fist, teasing him, causing Khan to shrink back in fear. After all, punishment is the remedy for unruly dragons. At that moment, Jian Ho suddenly burst out laughing. Khan was extremely dissatisfied, steaming with anger, exclaiming, "What?" He then explained, "You have to be wary of a human when facing a dragon. That's really funny." He immediately countered, "Even dragons know fear. You killed my kind. Are you planning to kill me too?" Jian Ho's expression turned serious as he explained, "I think there's a misunderstanding. The dragon scale knife and that cutting board were gifts. I did fight a few dragons, but I never killed any. I'm sorry, but your father's artifact broke when I fought the Demon King. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't return it. I apologize for that. But I really need that artifact, even though I forgot what kind of artifact it was." Seeing Khan's face, he suddenly suggested, "It seems you have a lot to say. Do you know how to drink?" But Khan bluntly refused, shouting, "How can I drink with a lowly human like you?" Yet just a little later, Khan was completely drunk, his mind hazy, drooling down the table. In his stupor, he slurred, You're the first human to drink with a dragon. You should be proud of that. Hearing that, Cheon-ho chuckled. I have another title now, the first human. A-S-T-A-Z-Japan. After that, his attention shifted to the egg, asking, Did you lay that egg? But you're still young compared to real dragons. That's amazing. Khan immediately denied, I'm a male. Males can't lay eggs. That egg is my sibling. Cheon-ho felt it was strange and asked, I thought dragons were all hermaphroditic. Your little sister, huh? Khan reminisced about the past and began to tell a story from not long ago. A spatial waterway opened up to our dragon cave. My parents were away, and he immediately understood, saying, So you've become a lost soul between dimensions. How long have you been in this world? Khan, half drunk at the table, replied, About half a year. Cheon-ho added, It's similar to when we returned to Earth. He exclaimed in surprise, What, I heard you went missing after killing the Demon King. Didn't you come back right away? I answered, I had some matters to settle there, so I needed a bit of time. Khan lay back, eyes closed, under the table, lazily lamenting, I see. That's really interesting. Cheon-ho, confused, asked again, What do you mean? You have another question. Why are you hiding in this useless restaurant? After saving the world, disappearing, and then appearing in another dimension, a monster like you could easily dominate the monster world here, which is in chaos everywhere. Don't you want the whole world in your hands? I didn't answer, but retorted, Why do you think that? Khan immediately sat up full of anger, banging his hand on the table, shouting, Humans are always like that power war greed, when you captured the Demon King and saved the world. Didn't humans start fighting among themselves? Cheon-ho hesitated for a moment, fiddling with the glass of wine on the table, resting his chin on his hand, somewhat vaguely replying, That makes sense, but I'm not interested in those things. I'm so tired of it. Khan frowned, looking at him warily, saying, I don't trust humans. Cheon-ho shrugged, saying, At least take good care of your only little brother. Hearing that, he hugged the dragon egg close, happily mumbling, Yeah, my little brother is really beautiful. Speaking of which, Khan leaned back and fell down, overtaken by sleepiness. Cheon-ho, exasperated, sighed, I told you to be careful. The next morning, when he sobered up, Cheon-ho softly exclaimed as he woke up. As soon as he opened his eyes, he hazily looked at the creature in front of him, wondering what those eyes were. Then John-ho turned to look at Khan, who was happily beside him, curiously saying, What? He introduced, This is my little brother, the cute little green dragon. Tilting his head slightly to look at John-ho, the little one was joyfully playing with him, while Khan behind was happily boasting, My little brother has been born. Suddenly, a system notification appeared announcing that the egg had hatched and a baby dragon was born. Cheon-ho hesitated slightly, asking, What do you usually call it? Khan immediately replied, Little dragon. He found it strange and wondered, Isn't that what you call a baby dragon? He then said, I was thinking of a name. Cheon-ho playfully asked, Is it male or female, Khan? Hearing this, angrily shouted, My little brother is a girl. And don't underestimate her like a mere beast. He stroked the cheek of the little one, enjoying his hand, secretly assessing that it looked tiny, like a grain of millet, but already had a few teeth. Dragons are omnivores, huh? Khan, with a very delighted face, exclaimed, That's right. My little sister is so adorable, isn't she? Always the cutest. Cheon-ho didn't deny it and nodded. So, where are you planning to take little Long now? Hearing this, he flinched slightly, his face becoming awkward as he drew out a long, contemplating, clearly showing his discomfort. Khan Cheon-ho quickly noticed. He chuckled softly and then made an enticing suggestion. If you have somewhere to go, you should eat first. It was a wild wind as the rain poured down outside, the damn demons moving with the storm. The wind carried a strong smell of blood, the last drink we shared together. And the smell of blood, too. The silhouette of a woman lying weakly on the ground called out softly, Miro, I'm still alive. Shortly after, the supergrowth hamburger steak was officially out. It was made from chicken breast and chicharrados meat, soft as a sponge, perfect for the elderly and children. Cheon-ho was feeding meat to Kyun while asking Khan, So, are you planning to go home now? He jumped, slightly sweating, and replied, how much is a meal? He and Kyun turned to look at him with puzzled expressions. $10, but you can go without paying. What's wrong? Khan hesitated for a moment, then gathered all his courage to ask, Do you have a place to stay? Qian-ho bluntly refused, I don't have one. Hearing that made him feel downcast and sad. Seeing his demeanor, Qian-ho realized he understood. He had fallen into a completely different world. It's so lonely. I always thought dragons were proud and arrogant creatures. A dragon feeling lonely. If the scholars on the S-Pan continent knew about this, they would probably write hundreds of articles about it. Suddenly, Khan placed a large piece of magic stone on the table and said, Here, I give you this. Kyun found it strange. He went over to touch the magic stone, listening to Khan explain, This is a level 4 magic stone. I know it still has value, even in this world. Suddenly, Cheon couldn't help but cover his face and burst out laughing. Khan immediately blushed and shouted, Why are you laughing? At that moment, Kyun suddenly let out a few incomprehensible sounds as if asking for something. Cheon-ho immediately understood and asked, Still hungry? He was feeding the little one a piece of meat, while thinking to himself, It's tough trying to survive on Earth with a kid like this. Even for a dragon, that's difficult. Maybe I miss that world a little bit. Thinking of this, the image of the woman on the ground weakly calling out, Miro, appeared in his mind. Cheon-ho closed his eyes, thinking that perhaps when he was alive, he would never have the chance to see her again. Finally, he accepted Khan and Kyun and said, Stay for a few days. But you don't need to worry about that. Seeing his bright, cheerful face made Cheon-ho feel hopeful that there was someone to share his secrets with. I guess it adds a bit of joy to life. Khan suddenly became awkward and worried, saying, Anyway, I can't keep relying on you like this forever. You even give me food and... Before he could finish, Cheon-ho waved his hand, casting a spell. I understand. I'll keep it safe for now. From his hand, a black flame erupted, shooting straight up to the ceiling fan. Khan saw this and jumped up, shouting loudly. A space portal opened, and the immortal goblin stepped out, bowing slightly and respectfully greeting the king of the world, saying it had been a long time since he last visited the subspace. Khan was utterly shocked and asked a goblin why. An immortal goblin named Cheon-ho hugged Kyun, excitedly explaining that he had been managing the items in our subspace for a long time and hadn't seen Cat Sim. And I told you not to call me that. Cat Sim bowed in response, saying, Sorry, sir, but now you're just an ordinary Kang Cheon-ho. So what brings you here? Khan asked, coldly wondering how many magic stones were in the subspace. It extended its hand toward the barrier, replying, As many as the grains of sand on the beach. But if we talk about the high-quality ones, there are about 5 high-grade magic stones and 120 mid-grade ones, Cheon-ho said, handing the magic stones to Cat Sim and ordering, I understand, add this too. It received it and continued 1 more grain of sand. While Khan stood in the middle, his face full of question marks, Cheon-ho spoke to conclude the transmission. Wait, we should take that out. Cat Sim replied, Yes, here it is. And Khan immediately praised. Wow, that's great, Khan thought to himself, totally confused, his eyes glazed over and drooling, mumbling, If it's high grade, then in this world it's level 1 and the magic stones are just lying around like sand. After everything was settled, Cat Sim returned to the barrier, respectfully bowing. Then see you next time, king of the world. Kang Cheon-ho, now ordinary, suddenly sat up and said to Khan, All right, now I want you to help me with something outside, as the sunlight streamed into the humble eatery. Standing amidst the modern skyscrapers, Kyun was lying peacefully on the mattress, slowly drifting into a deep sleep, when suddenly a huge explosion erupted behind him. However, Kyun didn't care and continued to sleep. The cause of the explosion was Khan Cheon-ho, who was seriously teaching how to roast meat. I told you, if you keep breathing fire like that, it will burn everything down. You need to control the flame accurately, he said, looking at the lump on his head. Got it. He nodded and ordered, All right, try again. Starting to listen to the command, Khan immediately breathed fire onto the huge piece of meat in front of him. Soon they had cooked the dish, grilled with the breath of Ataho, the main ingredient being Ataho coal. The grilling was done by Khan's breath, and he shouted in dissatisfaction. Cheon-ho squinted, nodding. This is good. Khan looked a bit hesitant, pointing at his skewer of meat, and asked, The thin sword you took out from the subspace earlier, it's not an ordinary weapon, right? Cheon-ho, while pulling the meat from his hand, replied, Probably not. What is it? I think it's called a direct rekafe. Hearing this, he broke out in a cold sweat, recalling an old memory. a masterpiece crafted by the dwarf artisan Rikafei, the greatest work of his life, a divine weapon that surely had nothing greater than it in this world. Thinking about it, Khan followed behind him, wondering, why do you keep using priceless treasures for such meaningless cooking? A weapon like that isn't meant for that. Qian Ho walked ahead, replying, isn't it better to use them than to hoard them like a dragon? You never touch them. He rested his chin on his hand, nodding. That's true. And turned back to look at Khan, pondering and secretly laughing, thinking seriously that he didn't resemble a dragon at all. Suddenly, a person walked in, catching both of their attention. Hello, boss. It turned out to be Jason, who raised his hand in a cheerful military salute, adding, just passing by while on patrol. Later, the dirty plates were put into the sink to be washed. Jahan, after tasting the new dish, exclaimed how fragrant it was today. He looked over at Khan, who was washing the plates, and asked, it seems like you've hired new staff, huh? John Ho nodded. Yeah, something like that. Jahun suddenly became serious and said, oh, right. More importantly, a new dungeon has appeared in the underground tunnel between Shinchan and CEO Demon. She is also recruiting awakened ones for this. He remained indifferent, saying, is that so, while secretly thinking about a dungeon forming. Dungeons are essentially places that nurture monsters and function as a type of portal to summon creatures from other dimensions where spatial tears have formed. My case is similar. And considering Khan's situation, it seems certain. John Ho wondered if there was any information about the difficulty yet. He replied, we estimate it to be around level 5, so at CEO Demon Kim Sang-gu and the Genkaku team will be dispatched, while at Shinchan Koche-jan will lead a team. John Ho, confused, asked, why is that? Jae-hoon continued, if CEO Demon is protected by a sorcerer, then Shin Cho is under the guard of a female sorceress to prevent them. They are also forming a reserve team. So today the square was packed with job seekers. Every time I see that scene, it breaks my heart. Lately there are so many awakened ones that only the best get chosen. It feels like looking at a labor market from ancient times, Most of them probably have families. Sometimes I even feel lucky to be someone who isn't awakened with a stable job. Suddenly, he noticed the time. Startled, he exclaimed, look at the time. Is it really this late? Thanks for the meal, as always. After Jaguan hurriedly left, Khan excitedly called from the kitchen, the grilled ataho we made is getting compliments. John Ho agreed, saying, seems like it. He held the bill in his hand and mumbled, maybe we should buy more ataho meat. Without hesitation, John Ho went to the market asking, can I get 10 kilograms of ataho beef, please? The shopkeeper smiled and asked, sure, do you want it sliced? He replied, leave it whole, please. Suddenly, amidst the bustling crowd in the market, a loud voice rang out, anyone who wants to join the raid, please line up over here. John Ho curiously looked towards the mentioned person, thinking that the guy looked familiar. Who is that? Oh, right, the sorcerer Kim Sang-gu. I heard he's a level 2 awakened one. So this is where they are organizing recruitment for the raid that I heard about earlier. Attack teams for dungeons are called raid teams. It's similar to the systems in the old games I used to play. Because of that, I understood this matter quite quickly when the world began to change, resembling a fantasy game. The existing terminology was also widely adopted. And that's not the only similarity. For instance, while tanks and healers are treated like nobility, DPS roles are always in surplus, probably because there are more diverse DPS classes. Many awakened ones are DPS. From the bustling crowd, a man approached and asked if there were any DPS spots available. I have plenty of power, he said. The other party immediately declined. Sorry, we're currently short on healers. John Ho thought to himself, unless your attack power is truly exceptional, it will be very hard to find a job. He suddenly remembered Jaguan's words. Most of them probably have families. John Ho glanced and sighed inwardly. Really, Choi Jo, he's a good person. I just wish he cared about himself a little more. Thinking that, he immediately grabbed the bag and headed home. The man walked along, looking dejected and sighing. He pulled his wallet out of his pocket, only to find it completely empty, not even a single coin, feeling utterly broke. With a heavy sigh after returning from the market, Qian Ho gently placed his bag on the table, looked around for a moment, then called his brave friend in first, and the kitchen was spotless. Just then the shop bell rang, catching his attention. The man named Kim Man-ho hesitated a bit and asked, "Are you still open?" without saying anything else. Chian-ho gently set down the cup, making Manho feel awkward. Thank you. Do you sell ramen? I'm sorry if you don't. John-ho, putting on an apron, replied, It's fine, just give me a moment. He then returned to the kitchen, fiddling with each pack of noodles, pondering how strange it was that ramen had remained a cheap substitute for 35 years and nothing had changed. The price has gone up and the flavor is a bit different now. They no longer use wheat noodles. Suddenly, Manho raised his hand and asked, how much is one ramen? John-ho casually replied, $2. Hearing this, he exclaimed in surprise, That's cheap. So can I order 5? John-ho jumped, asking back, 5, can you eat that much? Manho confidently said, Yes, I can finish it. Please, I really appreciate it. A sense of caution arose in John-ho, making him wonder what was going on. He immediately used his appraisal skill on him, and a profile appeared above Manho's head, a benevolent inclination skilled profession and a low-level ability. High comprehension ability. After reading it, Jian-ho pondered, I remember that skill. One of his teammates had it. The more they ate, the stronger they became, and the quality of the ingredients also mattered. Eating high-level monster meat could lead to noticeable improvements. However, this ability was extremely weak in the early stages, making it hard to utilize. Until they grew stronger by eating the flesh of powerful monsters, they would always be hungry. Once they reached a certain level, it would get better. It seemed like this man hadn't reached that level yet. Thinking that Jian-ho opened a pack of noodles in his hand and started cooking. After a while, he served up his ramen. A large bowl of ramen with grilled Idaho meat swimming in broth was ready, with the main ingredients being grilled Idaho meat and ramen. Manho picked up a piece of fatty meat and wondered, Wow, this is something. John-ho explained, This is my treat. He happily exclaimed, Really? But inside he felt a surge of empathy. Good people always face difficulties. I know that all too well. In times of turmoil, the kind-hearted are the first to fall. If his inclination wasn't benevolent, even if he had divine power, I wouldn't care given his high ability stats. The Idaho meat will have quite an effect. Thinking this, he added, At our place, we treat the first customer of the day so they'll come back next time. Hearing this, Manho immediately took a bite of the meat and said loudly, Thank you so much. After tasting its deliciousness, his face turned bright red and he couldn't stop praising it. I never expected the meat to be so rich and fragrant. Chian-ho immediately laughed and replied, You've got good taste. After that, Manho slurped up the chewy noodles, unable to resist their deliciousness, and finished a huge bowl in just a few seconds, placing the empty bowl down on the table without a single stain. Feeling refreshed, he exclaimed, Amazing! And walked over to Chian-ho, bowing slightly to express his gratitude. Thank you so much, boss. Thanks to you, I had a really great meal. He smiled and replied, It's nothing. I'm just happy you enjoyed it. Manho bent down to grab his wallet to pay, but accidentally dropped it. Wow, that was really delicious. Oh, right, the money, he stammered, gathering the mess on the floor. This. Looking at it, Chian-ho suddenly found it strange. A tie. After picking it up, Manho handed the money to Chian-ho, saying, Sorry for the dirty money. Thank you for such a wonderful meal. He looked at the bill in his hand and replied, It's no problem. Manho turned to leave. He bowed his head, saying, I'll come back next time. Chian-ho leaned against the door, watching Manho's figure disappear. He silently assessed the dusty clothes and the brand new tie. Suddenly, Khan, still sleepy, came over and asked, When did you get back? You don't have to wash this pot anymore. Just ignore him, he muttered, lost in his thoughts. Is he trying to impress someone? I remember thinking that man must have lived a tough life during these chaotic times. But I had completely forgotten about it. Not long after, I saw that man again, when the gate exploded as he was leaving the street. Manho looked at the tie box in his hand and sighed, suddenly looking up at something above him. A dark gate appeared surrounded by dark magic, making the surrounding space ominously frightening as the eerie gate opened. A green barrier emerged from the center, its gloom causing chaos among the people below in the city. They looked up at the spatial gate in the sky, murmuring. The awakened one stood guard, warning, This area is dangerous. Please step back. Manho approached the barrier and asked, I'm an awakened one. Is there anything I can do? The white-haired man asked, What level are you? He hesitated before answering, I work in the food industry. I don't have any special skills. But my strength is... Hearing this, the white-haired man interjected, "This isn't a dungeon that an ordinary awakened one can enter. Even the members of our team returned with injuries. That gate is that dangerous. You'd better evacuate to a safer place." Ignoring those words, Manhua was startled to see someone familiar inside, using their healing abilities on someone. Hearing Manhua's voice, Mijin turned and recognized him. "Dad," she exclaimed, running over excitedly. "Mijin." Kim Min-jin stood in the midst of the chaotic crowd, and Manhua scolded, "What are you doing in such a dangerous place?" "What about school?" Kim Min-jin bowed her head and replied, "They said many people were injured, so the school sent most of the awakened students to help." She pouted and continued, "What are you doing here, Dad? You need to get out of here quickly." "What's up with school?" Kim Min-jin bowed her head and said to her dad that they heard many people were injured, so the school sent most of the awakened students to help. She pouted and added, "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I'll handle it, Dad. Just get out of here quickly." Manhua quickly said that Dad is really worried. "You know that, right?" Minji widened her eyes and raised her voice, worried that Dad said his only talent was eating. "Dad eats and works every day. Eats and works and doesn't even come home. Does he really think throwing himself into danger among the injured is worth it?" While shouting, she pushed Manhua, saying she needed money, so she went out to earn a scholarship, but rushing in like this. "The more Dad does this, the more pathetic I look. Hurry up and evacuate." Just then, as the two of them pushed, a tie fell out of his pocket. Seeing it, Minji hesitated and wondered a tie. As if understanding Manhua's intention, she bluntly said with disdain, "Dad." Dad doesn't even have a decent weapon at this moment. A foot stepped out from the gate, and it turned out that person was Sanghu, along with other awakened ones who came here to assist everyone. The red-haired female awakened one raised her hand to her mouth, loudly announcing that the dungeon raid was complete. "Everyone did great, healers. Please gather here and take care of the injured." Hearing the command, Minji immediately turned around and left, responding with a yes, leaving it behind. Manhua stood lost among the crowd, hearing voices, thanking everyone for their efforts in the familiar kitchen room. Cheon gently coughed and wiped the knife in his hand clean, then gradually sank into thought about the various types of abilities an awakened one possesses, which have 5 stages to reach the master level. By increasing proficiency in this world, especially in Korea, to train awakened ones at a place called the Code School, which serves as a substitute for regular schools. When the first awakening class has been trained to proficiency, one can choose a second class depending on their environment and will. If a person masters 2 classes, they will be recognized by the Awakened Association as level 1 or higher, because that's something ordinary people find hard to achieve. So if someone awakens with a useless ability or has a slow growth rate, finding peace in doing what suits them is completely natural. In the final battle, I mastered my 6th class, but then I saw no signs of receiving a new class, so I guess this is the limit. Thinking of this, suddenly from outside there was a shout from someone. It turned out to be Khan, who rushed in shouting, "Miro!" He gently reminded him that the name was Cheon Ho. He nodded and continued, "Yeah, Cheon Ho, something really big just happened." Khan held up the adorable Kyun in front, showing off. Kyun suddenly spoke while chewing on Tappy, and hearing that Cheon Ho asked in confusion, "Is Kyun orange in Korean?" He hugged the little one in his arms, saying, "That's the name of this little one. Anyway, that's not important. Look at this, its ears are quite stiff." Kyun say, "Ba ba." The little one happily smiled and raised both hands up, cutely calling out, "Ba ba ba ba." Cheon Ho couldn't believe his ears, covering his face and mumbling, "It just said that." The little one kept repeating the name, "Ba ba 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 ba," while Khan beside him proudly puffed up. Suddenly he frowned and thought, "But that name sounds too Korean, doesn't it?" He explained that it even named itself Kill, and after all, it was born in this world. Kyun continuously called him, "Ba ba ba ba," making Khan happily boast, "Did you hear? This dragon calls me Papa." John Ho stroked the little one's head and replied, "Yeah, I heard." He smiled and asked, "They say dragons are born already proficient in a profession. What profession has Kyun mastered?" He nodded and continued, "I'm curious. I guess we'll have to wait until the little one grows a bit more." Suddenly from outside a voice called out, "Boss." Hearing that, Khan turned pale, hiding his face, and Manhua with a sad expression asked, "Can I get 5 bowls of ramen right now?" A little later, the two of them sat across from each other at the table. Khan had to go down to the kitchen, but he didn't know what to do and wondered how he could actually run a restaurant. Manhua lowered his head and spoke in a very sorrowful tone. I was planning to see if I could join a raid that's been going on today. Then he ran into his daughter, who said that if she helped treat the injured, she could receive a scholarship. But it was a dangerous place, and I couldn't even speak up or help her. They told me to evacuate because I was just a level 7 awakener, basically no different from a regular person. On the other hand, my daughter had awakened her healing abilities since she was little, and she was recognized as a level 3 awakener. She was also an excellent student at school, so she would probably be treated very well by the Awakener Association. She's the girl you saw last time. I went to school in place of my daughter because they said there was an observation class and the tuition was too expensive. I thought that at least I should buy something for her. And it turned out I only had enough money to buy a tie. Anyway, I thought it was better not to attend the observation class. What kind of good could come from a father like me? I couldn't even support my daughter properly for her graduation. As he said this, he covered his face and laughed bitterly. Ha ha, even in this situation, I'm still so damn hungry, Chian Ho said, closing his eyes and listening to Manho's lament with empathy. I'm just a useless guy with a food awakening, but I still have to eat like this. Who knows, maybe I could be assigned to a school where buildings collapsed because of a gate explosion. After hearing that, he went down to the kitchen and called Khan, who was holding a pack of noodles, and curiously asked back, What's going on? Are you teasing me? Can we fatten you up? Khan turned pale, sweating profusely, and shouted, You bastard! Are you waiting until I get fat before you make your move, just like a predator waiting for its prey to get plump before pouncing? Chian Ho continued joking. Then he noticed the scraps on the table. Khan sighed in relief and explained, That's the skin I peeled from Kyun. He felt that his expression was a bit strange and wondered why he was staring at it like that. I'm carefully collecting them. He realized John Ho's intention, and Khan hurriedly shouted, I plan to keep them as a memento. But in the end, he couldn't stop him, and so the large bowl of Idaho ramen was served with the ingredients being grilled Idaho meat and grilled Kyun meat. Khan, in the back, was holding his head in despair and lamenting. My collection. Looking at the 8 bowls piled high on the table, Manho hesitantly asked, Is this from last time? Chian Ho replied, We still have plenty of leftover meat. Please help yourself. He quickly picked up a piece of meat. After putting it in his mouth, Chian Ho looked out the window, waiting for his guest to finish eating. In just a few seconds, all 8 bowls were empty, leaving behind crumpled bills on the table before he left. Thank you for today's meal. He bowed appreciatively, thanking the owner for listening to his complaints. Chian Ho casually replied, No problem, then closed his eyes. He was lost in thought after Manho left. Suddenly, he spoke up to stop him. Dear guest, life is truly filled with challenges. Well, at least if there's something easy, that would be great. But for those who live hard every day, sometimes good things still happen. Let's try to survive until tomorrow, okay? I'll be waiting here as always. Chian Ho smiled, emphasizing, So, please come back. Khan poked his head outside looking at Manho, wondering why there was no change at all. Chian Ho chuckled, saying, I've done my best to help. He ate the dragon's skin, which must be very useful. He was still hung up on the earlier incident and added, That's a precious dish. Why did you help him? He fell silent for a few seconds, looking at the adorable Kyun, who was crying, then reached out to pat his head and said, My father also had a back like that. Khan then realized and asked, So you also have a dad? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the space, leaving everyone confused. Above his head, a swollen lump appeared, turning back towards us. Manho quietly opened the door to his house. The light seeping through the crack illuminated Kim Minji, who had already fallen into a deep sleep. Manho gently sat down at the table, realizing in surprise that the little girl had picked up her tie just at that moment. Minji sluggishly turned over, calling for her dad. In a sleepy mumble, a tear trickling from the corner of her eye as she whispered, I'm sorry, Dad. Manho reached out to gently stroke Minji's head, softly saying, It's okay, sweetheart. I'm sorry, too. He sat there watching his daughter sleep silently, thinking, I'm sorry for not being able to live like everyone else. I'm sorry for being a dad that makes you feel embarrassed in front of your friends. I'm sorry for not being able to give you a comfortable life, but I will always love you." With that thought, he pulled the blanket up over Minji and made his bed beside hers before going to sleep. Early the next morning, while the sky was still dim, a voice called out, "We're missing a key assassin at the back." Hearing this, Manhua hurriedly ran over and shouted, "I'm here." The cold man looked at him and continued, "Please present your awakening registration card." After reading it, he suddenly recognized him and asked, "Oh, aren't you the man from last time?" "What's your name?" Manhua hesitated before answering, "Kim Manhua." The man looked up at Manhua and confirmed, "That's right. You're that guy. I mean the man who collapsed during the incident in the dormant area. Where was that? Again, the dungeon. If that happens again, it could be a real mess. Even though it has been dealt with." "Yes, but it was originally a portal of rage. The Genkaku team has already taken care of the final boss. So we should be fine. This time, let's do our best, okay?" Manhua felt a bit awkward, but still agreed, saying yes. After that, the man raised his hand, commanding those around him, "All right, we've finished recruiting. Everyone gather up, let's get going." Meanwhile, John Ho had just woken up yawning as he walked down the street. Just then, a bus zoomed past him, catching his attention. John Ho watched the bus speed away, his face filled with contemplation. Moments later, all the awakened ones had gathered in a place very close to the spatial portal, looking at what was in front of them. Sanghu angrily shouted, "Damn it! What's the current situation?" The girl beside him replied, "The portal is closed. According to the current information, only the team from the Mana Crystal Company, consisting of awakened members from level 5 to 7, has been recruited and entered at dawn." The crowd was in chaos. Minji dashed forward anxiously, calling out, "Dad!" Everyone below looked up at the portal as a voice announced, "It seems a hidden boss has appeared." Hearing this, she quickly shouted, "Dad!" After stepping through the spatial portal, Manhua was immediately overwhelmed by the tropical forest before him, unable to help but exclaim, "Wow!" The commander of the Awakened shouted, "Don't scatter. Eliminate the small monsters while keeping an eye on your teammates. Let's go." Suddenly, a dinosaur monster charged at Manhua. He was terrified and quickly threw a punch at it, unexpectedly finding his attack incredibly powerful and effortless. Manhua looked at his hand, feeling a sense of relief. "I suddenly feel so energized. I should be starving by now. Why am I feeling this good? Why am I feeling okay like this?" Suddenly, the female awakener over here flinched and shouted, "What the hell is that?" A puddle in the dungeon caused the surrounding space to tremble as if an earthquake was happening right now, and a huge foot appeared approaching. The dinosaur opened its wide mouth and let out a roar that shook the sky. Those below quickly realized and exclaimed, "Damn it, it's the hidden boss." Even the Manhua couldn't hide his fear. Sweating profusely while others rushed away, he stood frozen thinking that the hidden boss indicated another boss lurking in the dungeon, which usually appeared when a puddle formed. The space was expanding, creating a very rare situation, and when that happened, most of the small monster cleanup team would die facing the boss in front of them. He muttered its name, Tigres, while the others ran away yelling that it was coming. "Hurry up!" Manhua heard this and turned to run with the crowd, but suddenly he froze, his gaze fixed on the mana crystal on the monster lying on the ground. It was a mana crystal. Manhua fell into deep thought. Just looking at it, he could tell it was level 8. If sold on the market, it would be worth a week's salary. If he had it, he could buy Mijin a nice outfit, and he could also treat her to better food. Thinking of this, he ran toward the monster, causing the awakened leader to shout in surprise, "Hey, are you crazy? Hurry up!" But Manhua ignored that reminder, his focus solely on the mana crystal in front of him, thinking, "I just need this. I just need this." Just then, the hidden boss opened its wide mouth and lunged to attack, using its head to knock Manhua away. The painful blow left him dazed. His eyes glazed over. He thought, so this is what Min Jin called pathetic. Even in the final moments, he still felt foolish, recalling the old memories of being scolded by the girl. The image of Min Jin crying in her sleep on the bed appeared next, followed by the memory of her just entering high school, shyly raising her hand for a picture. Memories of Minji as a child playing with Manhua flashed back, reversing time to when she cried at her mother's funeral, and finally the image of her newborn self appeared. Minji's love in her father's arms echoed in Manhua's mind, her sad voice resonating. "Dad, I'm sorry." suddenly making him open his eyes wide. Manho struggled to sit up silently, telling himself he couldn't die like this. He couldn't leave Mijin alone in this world. "I'm telling you, I can't die here," he thought. Manho stood tall, facing the hidden boss, bending his legs to gather momentum. Then he shot forward, attacking while encouraging himself. "I absolutely can't die here." A surge of power rolled within him as he shouted, "I can't die now." With that, he swung his fist straight into the mouth of the hidden boss, pulling back his hand filled with powerful energy, leaving the awakened leader stunned. Seeing this, he realized and muttered, "That's a level up." Manho looked at his body, brimming with strength, astonished, wondering if he had just stopped the hidden boss. The punch he landed didn't hurt, and he didn't feel hungry. For the first time in his life, he thought, "Wait, the hidden boss is charging at me, attacking with anger and a loud roar." He wasn't afraid at all, using both hands to block its toothy mouth. The strength of the hidden boss was so great that it sent rocks and dirt flying around Manho. His feet were pushed back, sliding on the ground, and Manho thought to himself, "I'm trying to hold on. I'll keep fighting like this." At that moment, a man with a long spear approached, drawing everyone's attention as he called out loudly, "Have you evacuated yet?" The hidden boss, the awakened leader, hesitated before answering, looking at the scene before him. Sanghu curiously asked, "Who is he?" "He single-handedly held off the level 2 Tigrex." The female awakener next to him added, "Seems like it." Sanghu chuckled, praising him. "He's quite a remarkable man. I should ask for his business card right now. The information of Manho is displayed right in front of me, showing his average job skills." Cao Qianho is standing high, quietly observing everything. After reading the information, he thinks that the ability of Shitshin absorbs the opponent's attack and counters it exactly the same. It could easily be mistaken for a damage-dealing ability, but in reality, it's more about defense. This is what people call a special ability, like a DPS tank in terms of awakening ranks in Korea. It's a pretty solid ability. At least it can reach level 3. The problem is, not everyone knows much about it. After defeating the hidden boss I smiled and started a conversation with Manho. Everything has been resolved satisfactorily. I should head back now, right? Returning to Jian Hokyun's restaurant, I lazily stretched and yawned. The kid dreamily listened to the radio beside him as it broadcasted the news. In the third raid team of the CEO Demon Dungeon, there's hot news that the hidden dungeon boss Tigrex has been defeated. Surprisingly, the biggest contributor to this team was Mr. Kim Man-ho, a level 7 awakener. While single-handedly enduring the final skill of the boss, he leveled up to Sexyin, level 3, and became the biggest contributor to the dungeon conquest. The news reported that the level 7 awakener saved everyone from suffering significant damage due to the appearance of the hidden boss, but thanks to Mr. Kim Man-ho's efforts, the Awakening Association has determined that the rank level seems to have been skewed and will quickly take corrective measures. At the same time, along with a big reward before Kian Ho-kyun lifted his hand and asked with a laugh, "Did you read the news? You've put on a bit of weight, haven't you?" The kid waved his hands, calling out, "Daddy, Daddy!" Coldly, I reminded him, "I'm not your father," but Kian stubbornly kept calling me Daddy. Hearing that Kian Ho was at a loss for words with the kid, I chuckled and said, "Oh my." The radio beside us switched to the news. "We will now move on to the next report." I knelt down, placing Kyun down, and listened to the radio about a petty thief causing trouble lately. Many merchants in the CEO Demon District are having a headache. The thief has been reported to be obsessed with shiny objects and regular food. A situation has arisen where low-level mana crystals currently being distributed in the market are disappearing in large quantities, and public opinion is rising, believing that the Awakening Association must intervene. We urge all citizens to be cautious. After hearing this, Cheon-ho raised his hand to his chin, pondering, "A petty thief obsessed with shiny objects and food." Suddenly Kyun came over with a cup of water in hand and bright sparkling eyes, shouting something. He quickly realized and asked, "Do you want me to drink water?" Just as John Ho was about to take a sip, Khan slid out from the bathroom, urgently shouting, "Don't drink that water, Kang Cheon Ho." He was confused and continued, "Why are you radiating such an unpleasant aura this early in the morning?" He frowned, sweating, and explained, "That water has a lot of bacteria. Today, Kyun just read about wells in a comic book. A well is where people draw water to drink. And in the eyes of that child. A toilet and a well look similar. Hearing this, Jian's face darkened as he nodded. That's right. A moment later, Jian Ho returned to order food. After tasting a new dish, he praised the owner. This fish doogie dish is really delicious. Did you just make this batch recently? This dish is called kadugi. What are the ingredients? It's still a mystery. John Ho smiled and replied, Recently, I got some good ingredients from the Shinshin area. Just then a man walked in calling out loudly, Hello, boss. He smiled and greeted Manho, who was dressed sharply along with Sanghu. I came today with a friend. This is Captain Gam Sanghu. Upon seeing Chian Ho, he bowed his head and said, Hello, I've heard a lot about you. He nodded in response, secretly surprised. Wow, he's quite polite. Seeing the two of them, Riowan, who was eating, had to jump up and exclaim, Mage Lancer! Hello, yes, the Awakening Association. Sanghu's face darkened tiredly, continuing, Yes, hello. It really is a pleasant afternoon, if not for the general meeting. He nodded in response, secretly surprised. Wow, he's really polite. Seeing those two, one and the others, eating, he couldn't help but exclaim, Lancer the Sorcerer. Hello, yes, the Awakened Association is here. Hu looked a bit tired and continued, Yes, good afternoon. It's indeed a pleasant afternoon if it weren't for the general meeting. This is truly a wonderful afternoon. Hearing that, he laughed. Ha ha, John 1. Are you excited to ask? Oh my god, the person next to you is sexy, right? John Ho, confused, wondered. Sick, huh? His eyes sparkled as he introduced a tall guy. This is Sick Shin Kim, the one who achieved extraordinary feats in the boss battle in the Sinchon Underground last time. Oh my god, his reputation has spread all over the world. Moreover, regardless of his rambling, Chian Ho was speechless, thinking, so that's why he's here. If he's famous, then there will be another title attached to his name. Manho smiled appreciatively and said, It's all thanks to you, boss. Chian Ho replied, It's nothing, I'm just waiting for you to come to the restaurant. Watching the two sit down, he asked, Today I'll order ramen for the two of you, okay? The uncle replied, Yes, I'll have a portion. Sanghu next to him added, I suddenly crave ramen too, so I'll have the same. He replied, Sure. And after Jian Ho had just finished, he said, Here's your ramen, sir. Manho next to him had finished a pot of noodles, leaving Sanghu astonished, his mouth agape, as he looked at the pot and exclaimed, How can you eat so much at once? You're amazing. Hearing that, the uncle smiled shyly, and Sanghu grinned and said, Since you've finished, you can go ahead. He reminded, You have to go to your daughter's school today, right? The uncle startled and said, Even so, I still feel guilty for going ahead. He reassured, It's okay. It's better to enjoy your personal life after work. In our case, we're always ready, so just rest when you can. Manho quickly stood up and added, Then I'll take my leave. Chian Ho, sitting aside reading the newspaper, smiled to himself as he listened to them, thinking, Their relationship seems pretty good. Suddenly, the surrounding space made Chian Ho pause. It was too quiet, so he gently walked over to Sanghu, who was nodding off at the table after finishing his meal. He sank deep into a dream as if he had never truly slept before. Sanghu, furious, grabbed the man's collar and shouted, Damn it, you crazy bastard! Are you out of your mind? Don't you have anything else to mess with? And you dare to mess with a divine creature? That day, a brilliant fire erupted in the city sky. The great sheep emerged from the flames, opening its cold, sharp eyes and growling before letting out an enormous roar. Shaking the heavens and the earth after waking from the dream, Sanghu let out a sleepy murmur as he sat up and saw Chian Ho calmly reading the newspaper across from him. Sanghu glanced at the clock, feeling embarrassed. Oh wow, it's already this late. I'm sorry, he replied nonchalantly. It's fine, there aren't any other customers anyway. Do you want to have a proper meal? Sanghu replied, It's fine, I'm not really hungry. Just then he noticed the news on the radio about the recent surge in petty thefts. Many business owners are having headaches, Sanghu asked. Can I have a drink, please? John Ho stood up and said, A drink, sure. But we only serve soju and beer. He continued, Then give me soju. And I'd like some snacks, please. The owner thought for a moment. With the ingredients I bought from the market today, I can whip something up. He then asked, How about sashimi? Sanghu asked back, Sashimi? He smiled and replied, Yes, I just got a really good one. As the monsters appeared through the spatial rifts, an era of monsters had emerged on land. The situation in the ocean is similar. Fish that were once common on Earth 35 hours ago have become rare. Instead, people are catching monsters. This one has a similar taste. It's called the German fish. An adult can easily grow over 3 meters, so this size is just a juvenile. Cheon Ho used a knife to cut the fish, thinking to himself, I have to say, it tastes like white fish. If I had to compare, it would be similar to cod or flounder. I never liked sashimi before, because I thought it was an expensive luxury that wasn't worth the money. But once I got to know the taste of sashimi, nothing is better than this dish. After finishing up, Cheon Ho presented the dish, saying, Here it is. Please try the shredded radish underneath as well. This dish is called German fish sashimi. The main ingredient is German fish, but what the side ingredients are remains a mystery. Sang-hoo picked up a piece of fatty meat and exclaimed, It's been so long since I've had sashimi. He then put the piece of fish in his mouth, and immediately the delicious flavor awakened him, feeling clean and very light, combined with the refreshing taste of the shredded radish. It felt like all his fatigue melted away. He took a sip of soju before the sashimi went down. After taking a gulp of the drink, he exclaimed, Now I really feel like I've finished work for the first time in a week. Cheon Ho, sitting across from him, asked, Really? He recounted, Yes, the urgent matters have been resolved, so I have about 2 days off. This is my first vacation in 2 years, even though half the day has probably already passed. Those were days of monster extermination, fighting tirelessly day after day. In reality, it was very exhausting mentally as monsters kept appearing through the spatial rifts. Those were the days of fighting monsters, battling day in and day out. Honestly, it was really exhausting mentally as the monsters kept appearing through the spatial rifts. There's no time to rest. This is a personal weapon given to those who awaken at level 2 or higher upon graduating from the Shifu school, made from a mineral called adamantium. It has an excellent ability to absorb mana. I felt so proud until I graduated from Shifu with honors. I could save the world with my abilities. As long as I have a spear, I'm not afraid of anything in this world. But when I stepped into the real world, that pride completely vanished. Perhaps it's fair to say there are people out there who are better than me. Before long, I realized I was nothing in this vast world. Contrary to what I thought I was assigned to CEO Demon 15, it's really tough. Watching him stretch out, feeling refreshed, Cheon Ho nodded and thought to himself, Yeah, I used to be like that. Surely there will come a day when you realize you're not as important as you think, not just to those who awaken, but to anyone in any field. On days like this, the best thing to do is to smile bitterly and sip a glass of soju. Then Cheon Ho asked, But aren't you the bodyguard of CEO Demon? One of the 5 bodyguards in Korea. That's pretty impressive, right? Just like in the comics. Sang-hoo looked sadly at the glass of alcohol in his hand and asked, Really? The hopes and futures of many people rest on my shoulders, so sometimes it feels overwhelming. Saying this, he took a sip of his drink. Cheon Ho asked again, Do you have any memories coming to mind? Sang-hoo set the glass down and replied, Yeah, do you know about the 9-tailed fox? Looking back, it was raining that day. Remembering that day, Sang-hoo and his teammates were running down the road. He angrily shouted, Damn it! Who's the idiot that disturbed the sleeping 9-tailed fox? It was a gentleman. Why would a level 2 person do something like that? The female awakener replied, We'll clarify that right now. Then both of them faced the fiery 9-tailed fox, which was roaring back to reality. He continued, Creatures with exceptionally high intelligence, like the 9-tailed fox, are often referred to as mystical beings. There are many different types of mystical beings, often marked as infinite meaning. Don't touch them. Leave them alone for reasons that are not yet clearly understood. Mystical beings do not confront humans. They have no history. They attack preemptively and quietly create their own territories. In places unknown to anyone, they live alone, which is why they are often hard to find. But someone had disturbed it before. Old memories rushed back as Sang-hoo looked at the silhouette of a man. On his shoulders were 2 eagles. He angrily approached and scolded him. Hey, you bastard, what the hell did you do? He turned back to look at him with a surprised expression. Sang-hoo kept questioning, Why haven't you? Before he could finish, the female awakener shouted, Captain, the 9-tailed fox! The 9-tailed fox opened its mouth full of fangs and let out a roar that shook the heavens and the earth. The flames around it erupted, incinerating the houses below. Seeing this, Sangu hurriedly ordered, "Form up. That's an infinite nine-tailed fox attack formation. Move up. I'll go with you. I'll take the lead." Then he led the awakened group to attack the nine-tailed fox in front of them. Next to its pure white tails, powerful fireballs appeared, and the nine-tailed fox immediately launched all its fireballs. From its fiery body, those who saw the fireball were mesmerized, standing there like lost souls, all dropping their weapons. Seeing this, Sang-hoo shouted in frustration, "Damn it! Don't look directly at the fire at the tail, or you'll hallucinate." The awakened woman behind quickly spoke up, "Captain, it's coming!" Just as she finished, she slammed her shield down onto the ground, forming a barrier. It protected both of them from the deadly flames shot down by the nine-tailed fox. The awakened woman raised her hand and mumbled some incantation. She raised her hand high, and many shields floated in bubbles, enveloping the fireballs from the nine-tailed fox. The moment had come. She shouted loudly. Captain Sang-hoo quickly placed his hand on his weapon, channeling energy into it, leaping from shield to shield, moving swiftly towards the nine-tailed fox. Sang-hoo yelled, "Now just go easy!" He then gripped his weapon tightly and plunged it straight down to attack the nine-tailed fox, which opened its wide mouth to receive the spear. Suddenly, its eye twitched. Its eyes widened, and tears welled up at the corners of the nine-tailed fox's eyes. Realizing this, he paused in shock, but still struck down at the neck of the nine-tailed fox. Then he finished it off in a single strike, recalling the events of that night. He said the raid on the nine-tailed fox lasted all night, and finally we succeeded in the expedition. Amidst the howling wind, I heard crying on the soft fur of the nine-tailed fox. A small nine-tailed fox was gasping for breath from a large wound on its belly. He gently held it back, realizing it was a cub. Sang-hoo fiddled with the wine glass in his hand, recounting how the eagle that gentleman released had hunted and caught a cub of the nine-tailed fox. While the mother fox temporarily left the den, its primal hunting instincts detected the helpless little cub. Surely that was a mistake. He was a genius at Shufu school. Even people like that make mistakes, but we can't afford to make such errors. Cheon-ho curiously asked, "Is there a cub?" He turned away and replied, "Yes, unfortunately we killed it. No matter how it happened at that point, there was no other choice." That's how the incident with the nine-tailed fox ended. The media kept talking about it on the radio and in the newspapers 2 years ago. Cheon-ho continued, "I think that was a good choice." Hearing that, Sang-hoo chuckled. "Is that so?" Saying that he stood up, saying he had rambled on unnecessarily, but strangely I felt comfortable. Perhaps it was because I hadn't had soju in a long time. "Sorry, I'm leaving now. Can I get the bill, please?" "Sure. Boss, please pack me a plate of sashimi like before." Cheon-ho got up and replied, "Got it." That night, the night sky felt sadder than usual. Sang-hoo, with a bag in hand, strolled down the night streets, his eyes slightly squinting as he looked down, lost in thought. Old memories flooded back. At that time, Sang-hoo had angrily grabbed that gentleman by the collar, scolding him, "You crazy fool! How dare you touch a mystical being, a little cub? Are you out of your mind?" He could only bow his head, mumbling, "I'm sorry, it was a mistake." Hearing that, he got agitated and shouted, "A mistake? Is that how we solve everything? Just because of you, everyone almost died in droves. What if it happened in the city center, in a residential area?" Breaking free from those thoughts, Sang-hoo squinted his face, reflecting a deep sadness as he walked alone toward the darkness, unable to see clearly. Cheon-ho sat in the diner, glancing up at the night sky. He thought to himself about the nine-tailed fox, a creature he had seen during his time on the Espen continent, from another world, unlike the invading monsters led by the Demon King. They were friendly to humans in the eastern continent, and there was even a saying that one must bow 3 times when passing through the mountains, guarded by the nine-tailed foxes. Still, I had hunted 2 of them, and regretted it both times. Such memories never fade. They linger like invisible scars, like screams that can't be heard, causing you to relive them endlessly. Sang-hoo walked to an empty, desolate area. He opened the packaged food and stared at it for a while, sinking deep into thought, when suddenly a light shone on his face. It caught his attention. Right in front of him were 3 fireballs from the nine-tailed fox he had seen years ago. Upon seeing it, he abruptly sat down as a tiny foot stepped out from the bushes. It turned out to be the owner of those 3 fireballs. It was the child of the nine-tailed fox he had seen years ago. Seeing Sang-hoo, the little one let out a soft cry. looking at the creature in front of him. He frowned, thinking he couldn't kill it. He hadn't been able to kill it back then, because of the desperate gaze of the dying nine-tailed fox. Why didn't I realize I just didn't want to kill it? The nine-tailed fox cautiously approached the bag of food on the ground, sniffing it. After checking it out, she began to eat voraciously. Sanghu sat beside her, holding his head and sighing, muttering to himself that he didn't deserve to be a guardian. He was completely unworthy. He looked at the little one and asked, "How many mana crystals have you stolen to grow 3 tails now?" There was even a news article about it. The nine-tailed fox didn't bother to answer and took a big bite of meat, preparing to run away. Seeing this, Sanghu grabbed the little one by the scruff, causing the nine-tailed fox to cry out in fear. The little one looked at Sanghu, baring her teeth and growling the fireball at her tail, glowing brightly. He squinted, dodging the fireballs that were shot at him. "Listen carefully, nine-tailed fox. I can't ignore this any longer. The association will soon take action. Leave the city, find a quiet place, and live a peaceful life." "Go on." With that, he coldly threw the little one to the ground. The nine-tailed fox let out a confused cry, making Sanghu grit his teeth in frustration. Finally, he channeled his energy into the weapon in his hand. "Get out of here, kid." Seeing this, the nine-tailed fox jumped in fright and ran away. Watching her figure disappear, Sanghu nodded and muttered, "Yeah, hurry up." The nine-tailed fox ran from the forest into the city. While running, she suddenly noticed something. The nine-tailed fox jumped in surprise upon seeing Kyun pressing his face against the glass, doing something. She tiptoed closer to check on him. Kyun opened the window, pointing at the nine-tailed fox and calling out a few times. The little one gently placed her foot on Kyun's chubby cheek, rubbing it. Feeling the softness, the nine-tailed fox was startled, thinking that softness was harmless. So, Kyun was her friend. Just then, the two little ones were happily playing together. John Ho pushed the door open and stepped in, seeing someone. The nine-tailed fox quickly hid behind the window, cautious. He soon recognized the little one and said, "So it's you." John Ho picked Kyun up into his arms. He expressed concern, saying, "Why do I sense the fox's aura from behind the mountain? Do you want something to eat?" The nine-tailed fox quickly shook her head in refusal. He smiled, raising his hand to cast a spell, saying, "Looks like you've eaten somewhere else." Instantly a space appeared, and Sims appeared, bowing respectfully and "Greetings, Lord Kang Cheon-ho. What brings you here this time?" Upon seeing the little one at the window, he wondered if it was a nine-tailed fox, a young one. Cheon-ho nodded and replied, "Just take a mana crystal from there." Sims handed him a mana crystal and said, "Here you go, Lord Kang Cheon-ho." Then Cheon-ho tossed it to the nine-tailed fox, continuing, "A level 1 mana crystal will be very useful for you." The little girl accepted the fang stone, quickly biting down on it with her sharp teeth, while the fox spirit sat down, feeling all the energy being absorbed into her. Inside, seeing that the girl was okay, Cheon-ho urged her to go now. Understanding his intent, the girl quickly flew over to the building across. Kyun waved goodbye cheerfully to the fox spirit, then went to a desolate place sitting on a utility pole, looking into the dark void of the city. The fox spirit raised her head, speaking to herself about the soft things, the harmless things. Even if a spear were pointed at her, she still knew they were gentle, but she would never see them again. Right, Sanghu was lying in a forest, looking up at the sky, silently sending a message to the girl that the city at night was no longer bright like before, still and dark in a place like this. The flame of the nine-tailed fox would shine brilliantly, so don't look back and live well. But hearing Sanghu's words, the fox spirit raised her head and let out a cry like a final farewell in this dark city here in Seoul. This building is the Korean Awakening Association. To register as an awakener, one must confirm their awakening status to prevent civil damage and rectify any harm. A patrol and countless other activities are conducted by IS second-level awakeners, the Witch Team, the Merchant, Kim Sang-hoo, the Night Queen, and the Appointed Sorcerer as guards. And the 3 first-level awakeners carry out special missions. All of this is managed by the association, and the head of this association is none other than the president of the Awakening Association, Ayu Jisoo. He sipped his coffee, looking ahead thoughtfully, then sighed to the female awakener. Behind him, Cheon-ho complained that it was too hot. This girl is the guard of Shinran the witch, and she replied sternly that it was summer, so let her make it cold. Jisoo refused, saying that it should be hot in summer. Anyway, the mandragoras have disappeared, right? She hesitated to answer, yes, both of them knowing well that mandragora is a plant monster that burrows underground. When feeling threatened, it releases a toxin that requires a special antidote within a 1 kilometer radius, so it is classified as a monster. Even with an antidote, if dug up to be destroyed, it is large enough to cause immediate death to low-level awakeners or ordinary people and spreads its seeds, so one must be extremely cautious. In a serious tone, the report stated that 13 mandragoras had completely disappeared with no trace of anyone entering or leaving. This was a strange occurrence, to the extent that one could only assume the mandragoras had vanished on their own. Hearing this, Yusu laughed and asked, "Do vegetables have legs to run?" Chian-ho awkwardly said, "If not, we can only assume they melted and disappeared." He glanced at the city below and spoke, "First of all, because it's hot, let's go inside. I will call Gabby, so please discuss this with her." She curiously asked about Gabby. "You mean the illusionist Gabby?" "Right. Has she returned?" Now, Jisoo replied, "That's right, she returned last night. She is still in a standby state for missions, so I will instruct her to investigate this matter first." Chian-ho nodded and added, "Yes, thank you." Over here, Kyun stretched adorably and gently woke up, letting out a few sleepy sounds, still a bit dazed, asking where Khan was. Not seeing anyone respond, she noticed Cheon-ho frowning in discomfort, realizing he was having a nightmare. Kyun softly patted his forehead with her delicate hand. Letting out a few gentle sounds, John-ho's forehead turned red from her touch, and seeing this, Kyun giggled happily. Suddenly, her little stomach growled. Kyun blushed and hugged her belly, then voluntarily went to the kitchen, pushing a chair to the refrigerator. She climbed up on the chair, trying to reach the doorknob after opening it. Kyun then noticed a white radish in the refrigerator. She curiously picked it up, thinking this radish was an old man. Weak and trembling suddenly, the white radish screamed in fear, and Kyun quickly opened her mouth to bite it, the sound immediately disappearing. But the taste was disgusting, and she spat it out, whining, while the radish in her hand wilted right there. A moment later, Cheon-ho and Khan woke up looking at Kyun, who was still sound asleep, curiously wondering about this little kid. But that taste was so disgusting that the little one spat it out while groaning, and the carrot in hand withered right there. A little later, Cheon-ho and Khan woke up looking at Kyun, who was sleeping soundly, curiously wondering about this little kid. When did it wake up? I have to give it a good beating first. Khan looked at the ingredients in the fridge, shocked, and exclaimed, "No way! Has it really eaten all of this?" Cheon-ho, holding Kyun with a big belly, turned to ask him, surprised, "Is that really the case? This little guy is pretty impressive. More importantly, where have you been running off to lately? It's been days since I've seen you." Khan replied seriously, "I've been investigating the conditions that form spatial water spots while visiting places where dungeons have appeared." Hearing that, he sighed. "You're really working hard, huh? Did you find anything?" He scratched his face, feeling embarrassed, and said, "Nothing much. I just saw a lot of the usual monsters from the Edpan continent." Cheon-ho suddenly jolted and asked, "Monsters, but wait, you're not a monster, right?" Kang was furious, smoke practically coming out of his ears, retorting, "Dragons are a great race. How dare you compare us to those things?" He didn't pay attention to him, narrowing his eyes, thinking to himself what that could mean. At least there's a possibility that dragons, or even something even more terrifying, could emerge from the water spots. John didn't expect to have overlooked this thinking to himself. Cheon-ho spoke up. "If you see anything strange while investigating, let me know, okay?" Kang nodded in agreement. "Sure." Suddenly, he had a question. "Cheon-ho, you've reached the 6th rank of master already. Can't you control the spatial water spots?" He turned away and replied, "I can't. I don't even know who created them or why they appeared." Khan curiously asked, "Then how did you come back to this world?" "How?" John-ho sighed and said, "That's a long story spanning over 10 eras even after defeating the Demon King. Let's drink and talk about it later." He continued, "All right." John-ho held the broom in his hand, looked up and mumbled, "Then I have to go buy food today. Thinking about summer, I definitely have to make that dish. Over here in the outskirts of Sinchon Chejiang used magic to cool the ground, to gather information saying, sure enough, there are no traces at all. They told me to come here." Suddenly, Shezhan was startled, realizing something had just flown over her head. She looked up and saw blue streaks of light zooming past quickly, not clearly seeing their shape. Shazan, fully alert, summoned her power into her hands, preparing to attack, when suddenly a gentle hand pressed against her cheek. This girl's name is Lai Kabi, and her appearance above made Shazan look up in confusion. Kabi's beautiful face smiled down friendly and said, "So, you're the Ice Witch of Shincho? City on the ice site, and it's all." Awakening Level 1 Miao Ying, leaning on her hand, spoke up. "I looked around, but I really don't understand anything." Shazan stood straight, stammering, "Hello, Miss Miao Ying, I am..." The first level awakener, Miu An, propped herself up and spoke. "I looked around, but I really don't understand anything." Chayan stood straight and stammered, "Hello, Miu An, I am..." Before she could finish her sentence, she giggled and said, "Why do you call me that? Just call me sister instead." "You're pretty cute too, are you? The new recruit?" Chayan hesitated and replied, "Yes, my nickname from the cryptography school is..." Noticing her tension, Kabi nodded and interjected, "Hey, don't be too nervous. You've been doing this for a few years now." "This is my 10th year, Choi Tran replied. Kabi was impressed and praised, "Not bad at all." Meanwhile, Choi Tran thought to herself, "No way. I just passed through an area with a barrier, but I didn't see any signs of disturbance. Is she really just a level 1 awakener?" Moreover, according to the cryptography school, someone trained to that level should have been a high-level agent for at least 35 years. How can she still look so young? Kabi smiled and extended a hand, saying, "I've met the previous guard a few times." "But you're the new one, right?" "Nice to meet you. I'm Lee Gabby," she said shyly, quickly grabbing Kabi's hand and adding, "I'm Chayan." Hearing this, Kabi giggled. All right. How's everything going?" Kayen, with a serious face, reported, "Yes, after the gate explosion incident, 13 Mandragoras went missing. We've secured this area very well, but there are no signs of intrusion. Or even combat." Kabi looked up at the barrier and said, "Yeah, I see that too." "So who broke the barrier?" Chayan explained, "That was a level 4 awakener from my group. She observed everything for a while and said, if someone can pass through a level 4 barrier without leaving a trace, they must be at least level 3 or higher. Let's start tracking the mercenaries around Central Seoul first. Where's the nearest mercenary group?" Chayan replied, "At CEO Demon, there are mercenaries at the temple." Kabi raised a finger and added, "Then let's head there first. I'm hungry. We might as well eat too. That place will have that kid I used to fight with. Right, let's invite him to treat us to some meat." Meanwhile, Sanghu over here suddenly felt an itch in his ear, vaguely wondering if someone just mentioned him. Back at Jian Ho's place, Khan was softly snoring, drooling as he slept. He excitedly cuddled the little one in his arms, exclaiming, "So cute, absolutely adorable." Khan looked at his sleeping sibling and passionately praised, "So beautiful, our little Kian looks just like someone so adorable." Suddenly he was startled and blushed. Khan quickly turned to Jian Ho and scolded, "How much have you seen?" He replied nonchalantly, "From start to finish." Khan, embarrassed, exclaimed, "Damn it," trying to salvage his image as he walked out. Jian Ho said, "I don't think there's anything wrong with loving your own sibling." Hearing this, Khan coughed a few times to brush it off. At that moment, Jian Ho opened the fridge and took out a watermelon, saying, "Pour some water into that big pot." Seeing the fruit in his hand, Khan curiously asked, "Oh, what's that?" Jian Ho explained, "This is called watermelon. Haven't you ever seen it on the continent of Espan?" He nodded and replied, "It's the first time I've seen it." He nodded and continued, "It's the first time I've seen that." "Is that red part meat?" "I thought it was fruit, but I heard it's classified as a vegetable." Ka picked up the chicken and asked, "What about this?" "On merci os pojo." John Ho replied, "That's a common livestock in this world. It's called chicken." Hearing that, Khan got angry and said, "Come on, I know what a chicken is." John Ho chuckled and said, "You know they exist on the continent of Espan too." A moment later, looking at the radish in Jian Ho's hand, Khan jumped and shouted, "Where did you find a mandragora?" He looked at the radish in his hand and said, "I was just taking a walk. I saw it growing, so I just pulled it up. Isn't that the kind you're not supposed to just uproot?" "That's strange," he said, looking at it, thinking to himself, "Mandragoras absorb thermal energy and help cool the body. They have a crunchy texture and a sweet taste, making them perfect for both cold and hot dishes. Today I plan to use these." to make the perfect dish for the hot summer. Watching his cooking process, Khan approached and asked, "Why are you stuffing all sorts of things into the chicken? You look different today." Cheon-ho replied, "Sticky rice, garlic, mandragora, green onions." He placed the pot on the stove and turned on the heat, saying, "Now we just need to wait a little longer for the samgyetang to be ready." Just then a voice came from outside. "Hello, boss. Oh my, is there a restaurant like this here?" Sang-hoo led two colleagues inside, smiling and saying, "Hello." Kabi, standing next to him, sniffed the aroma and exclaimed, "It smells amazing." John-ho responded while whistling to remind Khan, "Hello, welcome dear customers." He jumped and continued, "Hello, Sang-hoo. Are there a lot of customers today? Are you an employee here?" Cheon-ho glanced at Khan, who was clutching his stomach and shaking, saying, "Having customers at the restaurant is always a good thing. He's one of our chefs." Then he turned and asked, "We just finished cooking some samgyetang. Would you like to try it?" Sang-hoo curiously asked, "Is it cooked with chicken?" "I haven't eaten chicken in a while." Hearing that, Kabi jumped a bit and said, "Please exclude me. I'm vegetarian." Cheon-ho pondered for a moment and then said, "If that's the case very soon." He quickly prepared a lavish meal. There's sarek getang and mandragora kimchi. The ingredients were chicken and mandragora. Looking at the food on the table, Sang-hoo's eyes widened in amazement. Cheon, sitting next to him, gently blew on a piece of chicken in her hand and murmured, "Just sprinkle a little salt." She took a bite of the tender chicken, and the wonderful flavor burst in her mouth, making Cheon widen her eyes and exclaim, "So delicious." Sang-hoo on this side was equally amazed and said, "This piece of kimchi is the crispiest and freshest I've ever eaten." Gabby, sitting across from them, looked at the two and marveled, "Wow, it looks really delicious." At that moment, Cheon-ho approached and said, "Excuse me, you're vegetarian, right?" She nodded and asked, "Yes, by the way, do you know how to cook vegetarian dishes?" He honestly replied, "I'm not very familiar with it, but coincidentally, I have some watermelon. Would you like some?" Hearing the words watermelon, Kabi instantly got excited and replied, "Yes, please give me that." Returning to the kitchen, Cheon-ho scooped out the watermelon flesh while thinking about the many ways to enjoy watermelon. Slicing it, chilling it, or blending it are all delicious. But today, I'm going to try something different from usual. First, scoop out the flesh and cut it into bite-sized pieces. Adding other fruits works well too. Personally, I like to add some berries or kiwi, so I'm cutting those up as well. I'll also chop up a few mandragoras and throw them in. Then pour in a type of soda like Sprite. When the dish is served, it looks so refreshing that Choi-ran can't help but exclaim, "Wow, it's a fruit salad." Kabai, on the other hand, is thrilled and exclaims, "Oh my gosh, it looks so refreshing." This dish is called watermelon fruit salad, with the main ingredients being watermelon and mandragora. Choi-ran licked her lips in delight and summoned some ice cubes, muttering, "Let's add some ice to the watermelon." Realizing this, Cheon-ho noticed, "Oh, so you're the awakened one Sang-hoo, who is eating," turned to explain. "She's the ice mage guardian of Shin-chan." Hearing this, Choi-ran shyly waved her hand and said, "I don't like that title at all. I don't like those honorifics placed before my name either." She recalled her old memories and continued, "At the Secret Academy, there's a competition held every year. It's called the Battlefield of Life and Death. I was trapped in the opponent's trap and ended up completely revealing my ultimate move. I tried to act calm, but it looked like a stupid mistake. That time, I really messed everything up." Hearing this, those around her chuckled softly. Cheon-ho thought to himself, "It seems like masters from all over are appearing one by one." He glanced at Kabi, thinking further. Just her presence alone makes it feel like facing a guardian, and she might even surpass that. More importantly, she's truly beautiful since leaving the Espana continent. This is the first time I've seen someone like this. Watching Kabi enjoy the delicious dish and say thank you for the meal, Cheon-ho couldn't help but marvel at how she was stunning enough to overshadow everyone's gaze after the guests left. The sink was filled with ice, and the girl who had just stepped out earlier was truly beautiful. Cheon-ho nodded in agreement, replying, "Yeah, she's so beautiful that she doesn't look like a mortal at all." He agreed and added, "That's right, she's a fairy." Behind Kabi, a profile appeared that John Ho had used to identify her as a neutral faction with the profession of an invisible divine spirit. Mastering the intermediate-level profession, skilled in the skill of High Mage, he turned to John Ho and said, "Even so, how did you know?" "You definitely aren't human," he replied. "I confirmed it with my identification. She possesses the skill of divine shadow, a profession only fairies have." You're curious and asked more, but don't fairies usually have pointy ears? Do you think she realizes we're here? Chian-ho replied, "No, she doesn't have the ability to sense magic." Saying that, he put his hand on his chin, pondering, indeed it's not just monsters that come through the portals. There might still be other races that have adapted and are living hidden on Earth like this. Or perhaps there's someone hiding their true identity, disguising themselves as something else. But then Chian-ho suddenly called out loudly, "Ken." He jumped, letting out a small yelp. He walked into the kitchen, put on an apron, and said, "Make me something really special." Hearing that, Ken excitedly asked, "What should I help with?" He leaned on the counter and replied, "Grab a spoon." "Now we're going to make watermelon juice." Chian-ho thought to himself, "Let's enjoy this life a little longer." After stepping inside the association building, Che-chan said up front, "In the end, it's just a false lead." Sang-hoo behind spoke up, "If that hole disappears without a trace, shouldn't we consider the possibility that the mandragoras are disappearing according to a new ecological cycle?" Sang-hoo spoke up from behind, "If that hole disappears without a trace, shouldn't we consider the possibility that the mandragoras vanished on their own according to a new ecological cycle?" KB stretching immediately got angry and scolded, "Who is this brat talking nonsense? I'm telling you this whole thing is completely meaningless." But isn't there a lack of evidence? No witnesses, no victims. Come on, who would casually go pull out mandragoras like that? Does that make sense? In this country, even the birds and fish can't escape the eyes of people. Who would act without leaving a trace? Even a first-level awakener like Miwan has investigated and found nothing, so the answer must lie in an unexpected direction. Moreover, with 3 layers of barriers and our group monitoring within a 1-kilometer radius, there's no way anything could slip out unnoticed. Sang-hoo raised his hand to the back of his neck, wondering, what if someone has already cleaned them all out? Tonight the weather is unusually cold, even though it's summer. Stop with those creepy stories. After listening to the conversation, Kabi thought to herself, it really is suspicious. No evidence, and now it's unusually quiet, but surely something is happening quietly in this city. After thinking that, she propped herself up and said, "All right, then I will report to the higher-ups and hand it over to the research department." The group of hired spirits from the temple also came, but didn't gather any useful information for the investigation. "It's all just shocking news. I heard that John Tae-dong from the temple is about to retire." After finishing, Sang-hoo frowned, slightly sinking into his thoughts. Meanwhile, a middle-aged man lit a cigarette and exhaled a puff of smoke, contemplating. The starry night sky looked just like when I saw it back home. But the mundane police never stopped changing. The buildings have now risen in place of the forests, and the asphalt roads stretch where there used to be only lush green grass. This land, once filled with the scent of flowers, is now just a battlefield stained with monster blood. Now I'm tired. Thinking this, he sheathed his sword at his side. This man's name is John Jerry, and he stepped up high, clearing his throat and shouting, "Protect the survivors! This case is over." Everyone below echoed loudly, "This case is over." Chian-ho's gaze landed on a page of economic news from Korea, which reported that the sanctuary's management team had thwarted a large-scale monster invasion. He mumbled, "Impressive!" Just as he was reading, Kyun, in a playful mood, walked over and hugged his leg. "Ba ba ba ba." Chian-ho then noticed, "Oh, you're awake." He picked up Kyun to look at the newspaper together, and the little one excitedly looked around the paper, babbling about today's fashion. Chian-ho praised, "Today's fashion is really good." Kyun laughed and pointed at a warm weather report. Chian-ho calmly observed that today was warm too. Suddenly, Kyun's stomach growled, and he turned to look at Chian-ho. After a few sounds of understanding from Kyun, he said, "All right." But in Chian-ho's mind, he was a bit unsure about what we should eat for breakfast. That was always something that bothered him. What delicious food should we have? He pondered that life is short, and we only have 3 meals a day to enjoy good food. Thinking of this, Chian-ho pinched Kyun's cheek and thought, "Of course, your life isn't that short. So let's have plain rice," he thought to himself. 5 cups of whole grains are good for health. But our bodies aren't really affected by those things. Plus, I don't like the taste of it. Chian-ho set Kyun down on the ground and instructed him to go wake up your Appa Fluffy. Kyun sang as he walked. And when he arrived, he excitedly jumped right onto Khan's sleeping face. John-ho, who was outside, could hear his scream, which was enough to understand how painful it was. At the restaurant, the three of them were making mixed rice with egg bento and vegetable egg bento, and Khan excitedly asked, "What's this? Why does it smell like this?" John-ho immediately requested to mix it up. Khan hurriedly stirred it up repeatedly, saying, "Just trust me." John-ho took a spoonful and said, "Now it's all mixed up." The other two also took some to eat, and when they put the spoons in their mouths, everyone had a look of enjoyment. After a while, everything was gone except for a few pieces of vegetables, and Khan sighed, "I'm so full." At this moment, Chian-ho spoke up asking, "Can I ask why the girl has been acting so strangely lately? She eats and then immediately sleeps. Is she okay?" Khan hesitated, looking at Kyun, and Chian-ho continued, "It's been 3 months since she was born." Around this time, "I can start to guess what Fluffy's system is," Khan explained. "This is part of the development process during this stage. Kids usually eat a lot and sleep a lot. You just touched Kyun's cheek and he rolled over to sleep." Chian-ho thought to himself, "Remember that. And we will soon find out what system she was born with." "I'm really looking forward to that," Khan said as he picked up Kyun and stood up. "Anyway, let's get her to sleep first." Not long after, a voice called out, "Hello, boss." It was Kim Manho. Chian-ho enthusiastically said, "Ah, yes, welcome Kim Manho." He had just stood at the door for a moment and praised, "Wow, the rice smells really good." Kang-chan asked, "I just finished cooking rice. Do you want to eat some?" Kim Manho replied, "Yes, but I want to eat ramen first. As for the rice..." While he was still confused, John-ho suggested cold rice would be the best. Hearing this, Kim Manho smiled in satisfaction. Of course, cold rice goes best with ramen. While waiting for the food to cook, Kim Man-ho casually took out a newspaper to read and coincidentally seemed to be paying attention to the operations team of the temple. A little later, Kim Man-ho was eating and kept exclaiming, "Oh my gosh, this dish is really amazing, especially this piece of kimchi. The ramen and rice are also very good, but this dish is truly wonderful." Hearing this, Chian-ho thought to himself, "Of course. I made it with mandragora." Choi Jae-guan unexpectedly appeared. "Hello, boss, and you too, sir." Kim Man-ho curiously asked, "Hello, it seems like you came to have a meal." Choi Jae-guan smiled and explained, "Oh, I don't have time to eat, so I just stopped by to say hello." Chian-ho stepped forward and handed Choi Ji-won a glass of water. "It must be tough in this hot summer," he said. Choi Ji-won shyly replied, "Thank you, but I'm just managing to get by." Right after that, Choi Ji-won's face lit up as he casually remarked, "Maybe it's because I've been eating well lately. So my stamina has improved," he added. Hearing this, John-ho chuckled to himself, thinking, "It's thanks to the mandragora." At this point, Choi Ji-won asked seriously, "But Mr. Shich, that guy from the gang, must be feeling uneasy lately, right?" Kim Man-ho honestly replied, Yeah, I guess so. He seems pretty down these days." Kim Man-ho said a bit curious, "Do you know them, boss?" "They are called the Mercenaries of the Holy Order," and then he started telling about John Tae-jung, who is about to retire. So everyone is in a state of emergency. Chian-ho was startled by the news of the retirement. Kim Man-ho sadly said, "It's truly a pity. He is someone we deeply respect and admire." Seeing his face looking quite bad, Chian-ho immediately asked, "What happened?" Kim Man-ho trembled as he recounted the incident 15 years ago when the monsters broke through the Cell Demon Gate. It was a major invasion, and that was the first mission Kim went on. Currently, the mercenary is assigned to Chian-ho. Hearing this, he couldn't maintain his composure. Through his eyes, Kim Man-ho slowly continued, 4 out of 5 guards of Seoul sacrificed themselves during the process of stopping the major invasion. John Tae-jung was classified as a 3rd-tier awakener, but his true power far exceeded what a 3rd tier could show. He was an outstanding leader and a true commander on the battlefield, especially during the major monster invasion 15 years ago. It was as if he had saved everyone at the CEO Demon Gate. Many people owe him their lives, so they love and respect him immensely. On another side, an old man was holding a newspaper in his hand, mumbling, I knew this day would come, but he is the chairman of the Awakener Association, Ayu Jinsu. Suddenly, a knock on the door interrupted him. Ayu Jinsu said loudly, "Come in." The person who walked in was John. Jong, long-time no-see chairman, so the two old friends sat down to drink water and chat. Ayu Jinsu anxiously asked, "Are you really going to retire?" John Jong raised his glass of water and replied, "Yeah, I have to." Ayu Jinsu gritted his teeth and asked, "Why?" John Jong calmly answered, "Well, because it's time for me to rest." Ayu Jinsu couldn't take it anymore and stood up. "Don't you think this decision is too sudden? You are the one who built this mercenary group." He was agitated, pouring out a series of words, since he set foot in Seoul 35 years ago when you were still going through those tough fighting years. "I have always been by your side from then until now." John Jong still maintained that contemplative expression. He put the glass of water down and said, "Listen carefully. Chairman, no one in this world can do everything alone. Everyone has worked hard to create the world we have today. Both you and I are the same. From now on, there will be others to take on the responsibilities and continue moving towards the future." John Jong sighed. "Now I'm tired. Finally, I want to shed the burden of responsibility on my shoulders." At the end of the sentence, John Jong added, "Let's talk later. I'm busy." He turned and left, leaving Ayu Jinsu standing there mumbling, "That name Sang-hoo must be hurting a lot on the way." John Jeong thought to himself that the successor had already been decided. Hoping for a promising awakener who is now 30 years old, he has reached Tier 3 and may one day reach Tier 2. He sighed. What a perfect day. Suddenly, a voice from afar shouted, "You crazy! Did you hear the word hope?" When John Jong turned around, he saw Kim Sang-gu standing at the corner of the street at John Ho's shop, busy slicing tofu as two customers walked in. As usual, your go-to phrase is, "Welcome." And coincidentally, those two guests are John Jae-jung and Kim Sang-gu. John Jae-jung is surprised and says, "I didn't know there was a restaurant like this here." Kim Sang-gu smugly replies, "I told you there was." Hearing the two of them making a fuss outside, John Ho speaks up again. "Welcome." Upon hearing this, Gam Sang-gu immediately asks, "Hello, boss, do you have a menu?" Cheon Ho responds, "Today's main dish is a home-style Korean meal." Gam Sang-gu is taken aback. Home-cooked meal. Then he turns to gauge John Jae-jung's reaction. "What do you think, old man?" John Jae-jung grunts. "I'm fine." Cheon Ho quietly observes him. He looks to be around my age, maybe 50 or 60. The old general seems to fit him well. Then John Ho speaks up. "Can I have a moment of your time?" "Are you busy?" John Jae-jung replies, "No, I'm not busy anymore." "You can take as much time as you want." Hearing that John Ho feels relieved, Gam Sang-hu, looking disheveled, stands up. "Oh, I'm just here to show the way. So only this person will drink. I'm busy, so I'll take my leave." Before he leaves, John Jae-jung shyly says, "Sorry, he's still quite immature." Cheon Ho protests. "What are you talking about? He's the guardian after all." John Jae-young, holding a cigarette and about to bring it to his mouth, can't help but laugh. When did he grow up so much? Then he suddenly remembers, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you smoke." Cheon Ho reassures him, "It's fine. There are no other customers right now, so go ahead and smoke. Just enjoy the aroma of the food that's cooking." John Jae-jung casually remarks, "It smells so good." Cheon Ho, unsure, asks, "What did you say?" John Jae-jung quickly explains, "It smells really pleasant. I mean, it's the scent of the rice cooking. It's been a long time since I've smelled this. The aroma is truly nostalgic." John Ho thinks to himself, "Nostalgic, everyone has something they long for. Maybe I should make that dish again." He reaches up to the kitchen cabinet to get the ingredients. The dish he mentions is soybean paste soup. Immediately, Cheon Ho quickly starts preparing, carefully considering each step in his mind. Every household has its own recipe, so the flavors can vary widely. "I'm cooking this dish in a way that retains its rustic and coarse essence, using only soybean paste and vegetables without adding broth, then simmering it for a long time. The flavor may be less intense, but it becomes thick and rich with the strong aroma of soybean paste reminiscent of home-cooked meals. Next, I'll fry a sunny-side-up egg, then grill a salted fish." Finally, Cheon Ho completes and beautifully arranges the meal. This is a traditional Korean meal with egg bento fish and jomon mandragora. John Jongjun is captivated by the first dish. He hesitates before scooping up a spoonful. As he puts it in his mouth, he stands frozen for a few seconds. Next, he scoops up another spoonful of sticky rice. John Jongjun's expression seems like he's about to cry. It feels like he's home again. He shares, "I'm 35 now." So memories are fading. He recalls when he first set foot in Seoul. Cheon Ho acknowledges, "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" John Jong reflects, lowering his head. "Yeah, thinking back, it really has been a long time." Time flies in the blink of an eye. His brows slightly furrow as he remembers leaving his hometown. "I thought I would return soon." Back then, everyone wanted to go to Seoul. Going to Seoul was a matter of survival. He emphasizes, "I will never forget." The Great Migration happened 35 years ago, and the last great invasion was 15 years ago. That's right. Back then, during the evacuation period, John Jong began recounting the events from 35 years ago, when the monsters first appeared, causing nations and cities around the world to collapse. Countless lives were lost while I was back home. And, in that moment of danger, I happened to pick up a sword. I could swing it freely as if I had been trained. My physical strength had also increased tremendously. So I led the awakened ones and the villagers towards Seoul, believing that the only way for everyone to survive was for the strong to step up. John Jong, putting a cigarette to his lips, marked the beginning of the mercenary army of the Holy Order, he concluded as the awakened gathered. The people united, and we were able to rebuild the city. The world began to change once again, and the title of Guardian was born from that moment, with a hint of sadness in John Jong's voice. Although it was still called South Korea in name, in reality, only the city of Seoul remained. What was left of South Korea today was just a small fraction of what it used to be. John Jong flicked the ash from his cigarette and patiently continued. Just as everyone was adapting to the changed world, that incident occurred 15 years ago, the day the monsters now classified as boss level surged in. It was the final invasion, he said, reminiscing about that time. At that moment, Kim Sang-gu was cornered by a monster. He was so scared that he could only hold his weapon tightly, and when it lunged at him, he hurriedly tried to block it, feeling utterly confused inside. It was too strong. I couldn't fight it alone. At this rate, I'm going to die. I don't want to die. Just when he was at his most desperate, John Jong arrived like a hero, using his sword to throw the monster away. Unfortunately, it left a long scratch on his eye. Once he was safe, he stepped forward, using his bloodied hand to support Kim Sang-gu. "Wake up, kid." Kim Sang-gu, losing his composure, shouted, "I'm trembling. I'm so scared. I just want to run away." John Jong calmly reassured him. But at that moment, if you dare to step forward, that's when you'll truly be you. If you keep being scared, you'll only know how to retreat for the rest of your life. Kim Sang-gu hesitantly took his hand. John Jong curiously asked, "What's your name?" "I'm Kim Sang-gu." John Jong confirmed, "So you're the newly appointed guardian?" Kim Sang-gu honestly replied, "Yes, that's right, sir." Suddenly he noticed something and shouted, "Behind you, John Jong!" He didn't rush, but slowly gripped his sword tightly. It seemed he was gathering momentum. "Look closely." A rookie guardian, he turned around and swung his sword just in time, before the monster could crush them. The sharp blade split the monster in two, finishing the job. John Jong lowered his sword and confidently said, "This is the path we carved ourselves." Kim Sang-gu, still inexperienced, could only nod along, returning to the present. Kim Sang-gu had grown into a strong young man. He stood on the edge of a rock, looking around, mumbling, "What a beautiful place, old man." Then Kim Sang-gu turned around and quickly ran into the forest, weapon in hand, filled with determination. There shouldn't be any monsters here. This place must be safe, because this is where he will come, where he will rest in peace. Kim Sang-gu looked around excitedly. This was all he could do. I must ensure that the tranquility he preserved becomes a truly peaceful place. Thinking of this, his tears welled up. Damn it, Kim Sang-gu. He knelt down in despair. Why isn't there a single monster? I can't do anything for him. Turning back towards John Ho's tavern, he asked, "Is there anything you regret?" John Jong crushed the cigarette butt. Every day that passed was filled with regret. "I have to be perfect," he choked out, "to protect someone to keep living. At the very least, to survive each day, we cannot afford to make mistakes, because our mistakes could cost others their lives, those who were once someone's dreams and hopes." John Ho began to reflect on Kim Sang-gu. He used to think that his way of thinking was quite mature for his age, but it turned out he had learned from this person. John Ho thought it was such a struggle to try to be perfect. In the end, it would destroy a person. Even though he had long been exhausted, he still pushed himself to raise an exceptional next generation. Cheon Ho spoke up, asking, "I heard you're going back to your hometown." John Jong-jung confirmed yes. Cheon Ho thought to himself that he could somewhat understand. The time he had gone through, he had lived for others for most of the time he existed in this world. It was the same. At that moment, John Jong-jung put on his coat, stood up, and pulled out his wallet. John Ho immediately said it was on the house. John Jong-jung was surprised and asked what John Ho then made up a story. "Our restaurant always serves free meals for those returning to their hometown." John Jong-jung laughed, saying, "That's really a strange restaurant." Then he walked out the door, and before leaving, he didn't forget to say thank you for the meal. "From now on, please take good care of that stubborn name." Cheon Ho affirmed that he was now an excellent bodyguard. Hearing that, John Jong-jung paused, bowed his head, and sighed. "Yeah, that kid has really become a true bodyguard. I see him as my own son, so forget it." Finally, John Jong-jung broke into a bright smile. It was such a pleasant time, the boss on the way. John Jong-jung kept looking up at the sky, feeling much more at ease now. The moon is really bright tonight. Cheon Ho stood watching the silhouette of the special guest gradually fade away. "That old man won't die, but they just disappear." John Jong rode his motorcycle along the road for a while until the sun rose over the bridge. He braked and stopped to gaze at the familiar city before him. "I'm back." Meanwhile, in another place, Kim Sang-gu was also gazing at the city from a rocky outcrop, crying bitterly, "Take care and live well, old man." Just as Kim Sang-gu was leaving, a nine-tailed fox appeared there. The little girl Khan was soft and gentle. The little girl thought so. The person just left, and that mysterious creature was the one who had given her that sparkling stone. That soft thing had never hurt her. "Come here, a gentle person." At this moment, Jian Ho was standing in a void. A strange voice called out, "Miro, Miro." He unconsciously said, "Lentero." The call kept echoing, "Miro." There was no response. Jian Ho excitedly shouted, "Lentero, are you awake?" On the other side at that moment, suddenly the image flickered, and he was transported to a place filled with many monsters. His outfit had also changed, and a strange figure spoke, "O king of the world, you are the one who summoned me to this dimension." "Right." Cheon Ho was dumbfounded. "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't understand anything." Then he punched his armored fist together and flew straight to the magical circle of that strange figure. The moment his hands touched it, Jian Ho suddenly woke up, his face drenched in sweat. When he calmly sat up, he saw Khan huddled in a corner panicking. Jian Ho wondered, "What's wrong with you?" Khan stammered, "You're radiating such a terrifying aura, and you still ask what's wrong." Jian Ho suddenly realized something. "Sorry," he said, holding his head tiredly. Seeing this, Khan immediately asked if something was wrong. Jian Ho, feeling annoyed, replied, "Damn it, there's nothing. The war ended almost 15 years ago. Yet this kind of thing still happens from time to time." He pondered that maybe it was because he had heard about the great monster invasion in Seoul 2 years ago, the day he fought the Demon King. It's hard to say if it's just a coincidence. Cheon Ho silently hoped that perhaps they wouldn't meet again in this place when Jian Ho went to the Kyun room to check. He was met with a horrifying sight. The kid was lying on the ground, scribbling all over the floor and happily singing. Jian Ho helplessly held his head, thinking that in moments like this, you really are just a child. Then he stepped forward to pick up the newspaper from the ground. "What's this you drew?" "A chicken," Kyun excitedly replied, pointing to a picture on the ground. "This is chicken." Kyun looked confused at Cheon Ho, seeming to think he guessed wrong. Then he speculated, "Is it a fish? Wait, maybe it's a mermaid. Have I ever seen a mermaid?" Cheon Ho picked Kyun up. The little rascal delightedly pinched Jian Ho's cheek, and he couldn't bring himself to scold him. After that, he set Kyun down and patted his head, giving him a warning. "Today, we're going to make chicken for you to eat, so you need to erase all these drawings, okay?" "Got it!" Jian Ho shouted loudly, sounding completely different from earlier. Khan, who was brushing his teeth, rushed out. "Is this kid causing trouble again?" Jian Ho then said, "Today you're going to teach Kyun what cleaning up means." Khan panicked, holding his head as he looked at the battlefield in front of him. This kid is causing trouble again. At that moment, Kyun was still playfully pinching John Ho's cheek in front of Khan. The latter exclaimed, "Why do you seem closer to Kyun than to me?" Cheon Ho instructed, "Stay home and take care of the house properly. I'm going to buy some food." At the market, the vendor, while tying up a plastic bag, suspiciously asked, "So much chicken?" Cheon Ho quickly made up a story. "Yeah, I'm feeding a really big eater." He thought to himself, "Actually, it's a dragon." The vendor joyfully exclaimed, "Wow, today really is my lucky day." There's also a festive atmosphere today. Cheon Ho, curious about the festival, saw the vendor enthusiastically pointing ahead. "Looks like you haven't seen it yet. Let's go check out the square. It's probably still in the trial phase." At the square, there was a large golem, and everyone around was cheering excitedly. John Ho quietly approached to observe the golem at that moment. Coincidentally, from afar, Likabi spotted him. "Hello, boss," John Ho replied. "Hey, just casually asking, are you here to check it out?" "I'm here to see the trial run of the newly developed ogre." Cheon Ho was curious. "Ogre?" Likabi smiled and explained, "That's right, that's its name. It's a golem that can be ridden and operates using mana crystals." Cheon Ho felt disheartened, thinking to himself that they already had that on the Edpan continent. He analyzed in his mind that it had great power, but its limitations were clear. Its movement capabilities were still limited, making it suitable for facing large monsters. However, it was at a disadvantage against smaller, faster monsters, and not everyone could control it, even if they could ride it. Cheon Ho asked, probing, "So, is someone controlling it?" Likabi replied, "That's a mechanized controller, a first-level awakener." Cheon Ho thought to himself, "So, it's one of the 3 first-level awakeners known to be present there." He was one of the 3 level 1 awakeners known to be present there. He reflects that the reason not everyone can ride a golem is quite simple. One must have the ability to channel the energy emitted from mana crystals, and only awakened individuals can do so. Being born with a special physique is what makes that possible. The golem master profession is represented by the awakened level 1 mechanist Kim Hoon, while John Ho is still pondering over the golem. The ability is decent, but the cost is prohibitively high, so it's hard to say it's worth the price. However, if supported properly, it could greatly impact the development of mana crystal technology, making the world much more convenient. He feels disheartened, thinking there's nothing worth seeing here anymore. He bids farewell to Likabi to make a quick exit, wishing him well. Likabi asks if his restaurant is open today. John Ho confirms, saying yes, unless something special happens, we are open year-round. Likabi exclaims, "Thank goodness, I'll drop by soon." After that, Jian Ho quickly heads home. When he opens the door, he is startled to see a stranger in the house. He wonders in his mind who it is, while the little one Kyun jumps up joyfully and Kyu-kan smirks, saying, "You're back." Jian Ho questions what that spirit is. "Is it yours?" Khan raises his hand and solemnly declares that Kyun has been identified as a spirit of the monster class. Khan shows off his knowledge, saying Kyun has white hair, but his mother is a blue dragon who once had an exchange with the Long tribe living in the water and the Pink tribe. On the mountain that day, they hadn't finished their sentence when John Ho blurted out a wild guess. "Is she a water spirit?" Khan immediately denies it, saying, "No, that's not my mother." The little one hugs the spirit and affectionately calls her mom. Khan yells to stop. "No, it's not." John Ho speculates that a spirit like that must be a high-level spirit. "Right." Khan slaps his forehead. "Yeah, that's right." Looking at the spirit before him, Cheon Ho feels a bit nostalgic. It's been a long time since he saw a spirit in a non-combat state. The power of a high-level spirit in battle is truly overwhelming. He thinks the principle of summoning spirits is quite simple. They are called from the multidimensional spirit realm, and their names are standardized, regardless of whether they are high, medium, or low-level water, and in fire, salamander, wind, symph, and even the 08 spirit. There has never been a case where spirits representing each element were summoned. So this must be a last resort. The demon realm, where the demons reside, the spirit realm in the continent S-Pan, including the dimension where Earth exists, totals 4 dimensions, and among them 2 dimensions, the Espana continent and Earth, are linked together. Cheon Ho is confused and stops, unable to keep up with his thoughts, and decides to drop the matter. He turns to Khan and asks, "Have you taught the little one how to clean up yet?" Hearing this, Khan confidently smiles. "Look at this." And with a wave of the water spirit's hand, everything becomes clean again. In Chian-Ho's heart, doubt begins to creep in. Perhaps he should master at least one type himself. But on the outside, he pretends to maintain a calm voice, thinking, indeed, this is an extremely useful profession. Well, since that little one has awakened her abilities, maybe I should master at least one type too. But on the outside, he pretended to be calm and collected. Indeed, this was an extremely useful profession, especially since that kid had awakened his powers. How about we throw a celebration party? Chian-Ho immediately rushed into the kitchen first, unwrapping the chicken from its plastic wrap. He confirmed that today's main dish would be fried chicken, reflecting on how this country once had a fried chicken craze about 35 years ago. It feels like every type of fried chicken imaginable has already been made. Sweet and sour chicken and soy sauce. Chicken are basic dishes with countless combinations. The number of fried chicken variations easily exceeds 100, but among them, there's only one dish that truly stands out as the foundation of all those variations, fried chicken. So, Chian-Ho finished preparing the dish, and when he saw the fried chicken in front of him, he couldn't help but reach out for it. He stammered over the menu, and next to him, Khan was already drooling over the delicious aroma. Chian-Ho kindly handed him a drumstick, saying this dish is best eaten with your hands tearing it apart. Why not start with the drumstick? Khan grabbed the chicken leg and took a big bite, leaving Chian-Ho feeling helpless with this little one. Seeing the enjoyment on his face, Chian-Ho smiled and said, "It's really good, isn't it?" Khan eagerly lunged for the fried chicken, saying, "I can't take it anymore." "I want one too." Chian-Ho suddenly turned serious and said, "Wait, in our world there's a tradition of eating fried chicken together as a way to truly understand someone's nature. It reveals exactly what kind of person they are." Khan exclaimed in surprise, "Huh?" Chian-Ho lowered his voice. "So, which part will you eat first?" Khan hesitated, becoming serious. "Is this really that important?" Chian-Ho confirmed, "You could say that." Khan innocently believed it, racking his brain, and finally grabbed a chicken neck, saying, "I like this part. But what does that say about my true nature?" Hearing this, Chian-Ho explained, "Oh, I was just joking. Let's eat." With that, the two turned around to find Kyun had devoured all the chicken, leaving nothing behind. Khan cried out, "I haven't even had a bite." Chian-Ho sighed. "That kid even ate the bones. I knew this would happen, so I prepared well." Right after that, Chian-Ho quickly brought out another batch of chicken and grabbed a regular beer. "I would have chosen soju, but with chicken, it has to be beer." Khan excitedly raised his glass. "Well, today has been tough." Chian-Ho praised him. "Great job." After finishing a sip of beer, Khan turned back to the fried chicken, exclaiming how delicious it was. When he looked at Chian-Ho, he saw him holding a whole bone. Pulling it out of his mouth, Khan exclaimed in amazement, "How did you clean the bone so well?" He tried to imitate him as best as he could. "There are a lot of small bones, right?" Seeing this, Chian-Ho chuckled, and Kyun suddenly waved his hands, calling out to them. It turned out the little one had seen fireworks outside the window. Chian-Ho wondered, "Looks like the festival is still going on, huh?" Khan was pale with fear, saying, "I thought there was a war breaking out or something." Chian picked up Kyun to see, explaining, "Those are fireworks. Is this your first time seeing them?" Kyun, being held up, looked on with great delight, laughing the whole time. Chian-Ho then reflected, realizing that Kyun had always just been hanging around the restaurant. Maybe the girl feels a bit trapped, huh? When will she transform, I wonder? Khan guesses that this girl has awakened her class now. I think she'll be able to do it soon. John-Ho even asked about her fire breath too. Khan replied, "Yeah," and Chloe excitedly said she can't wait for that. He couldn't stop thinking about how if she could transform, he wanted to buy her some nice clothes and show her the world out there. So he planned to get her some shoes, tie her hair up, and buy her a necklace or a ring. Meanwhile, Kim Hun was trying to fix the golem. He was disappointed, saying, "This machine is too heavy. I think I need to adjust the performance a bit. The mana crystal isn't as expected. I need a type of metal that absorbs mana more efficiently." Then Kim Hun trudged out and saw Likabi waiting for him, saying, "You look worn out." Kim Hun panicked, saying, "This is the men's changing room." Likabi pleaded, "Come on. I just want to see how much you've grown." Kim Hun teased, saying, "You were just called an old lady and now you're really acting like one." After that, he complained, "I need to shower and eat something." "Damn it, because of that trial run. I've only had water all day." Lycabee chimed in, "I knew Hun would be like this. So I found a restaurant already." Hearing that Kim Hun teased again, "Sister, you know you're older than my mom, right?" Then he quickly turned around and asked, "Which restaurant are you talking about?" Lycabee shouted angrily, "Do you want to get hit? It's at CEO Demon." Kim Hun suddenly remembered that place is near Sanghu's area. "Oh, by the way, have you heard the news?" "I heard Commander John Tai Dung has retired." Lycabee fell silent. "Yeah, I heard. They say he went back to his hometown to live." Kim Hun put his stuff in the locker. "What a shame, he was a really good person." Lycabee said sadly, "It's about time he gets to rest. I wish I had a hometown to return to." At this point, she quickly changed the subject. "By the way, the new mana crystal seems better than expected, right?" Kim Hun replied, "It's not bad. You could say the mana concentration is quite high." "But the mana isn't completely pure?" he curiously asked. "It comes from the new dungeon that appeared recently." "Right," Lycabee confirmed. "Yeah, it's temporarily rated as level 1. She hesitated. "But something makes me suspicious. It's a cave-type dungeon that appeared in the Inchin area. There are no monsters, just a mine full of mana crystals. The problem is the sky has started emitting strange light, as if something is about to crash down at any moment." And the purple sky she mentioned had Cheon-ho standing there holding some kind of rope. "You look really strange. All the treasures once taken from dragons in the past are now under my management, and during the confrontation with the Demon King, quite a few treasures were destroyed, including Miro Rikus. Above all, those dragons always avoid me. Not a single one has ever tried to meet me. But among the countless treasures I obtained, there was one item, a magic mana detector, and Cheon-ho stared at the stone around his neck, realizing that mana was indeed detected here as he observed a team coming out from a distance. I heard that Kim Sang-hoo's group was defeated. What happened? Isn't this a mana crystal mine? If used correctly, it could quickly become a great discovery, Cheon-ho thought, but he mentioned that this dungeon collapsed because of the Demon King. The amount of mana being emitted here is beyond what I know. It has already begun. He looked up at the sky where a water stain appeared, then the stain gradually expanded and something flew out from that spatial door. Pigs with blood-red eyes emerged, and the team below began to organize. "Damn it, Formation D, prepare for battle. The big pigs are charging in." Kim Sang-gu shouted loudly, "The rest of you block them from the outside." A giant level 6 pig had evolved into a battle form, and everyone began to take their fighting stance. The pigs charged in en masse, and the team quickly created shields. They shouted, "Captain Kim Sang-gu is jumping down from above." He looked at the pigs in horror. "Are you crazy?" A giant pig broke through the shield and directly crushed the team below. Kim Sang-gu couldn't believe his eyes. He immediately landed and ordered, "The kingpin is coming. Now that the leader has appeared, there won't be any more giant pigs. Prioritize saving the injured." The water stain emitted lightning, and the pigs fell again. Kim Sang-gu had to face the pigs around him, while the others also began to fight desperately. The calls for help echoed, "Captain." Kim Sang-gu's expression was grave. He had to make a choice. Thoughts flooded his mind. If he wanted to protect the remaining members and civilians, he had to choose to stay behind. What about those who are trapped near the kingpin at the front line? Is choosing to protect the majority really the right choice? While thinking, he gripped his weapon tightly. The heroes had said they regretted every day standing at such crossroads. They must have been tormented, regretting how much they had to endure. The thought made Kim Sang-gu feel sick. Honestly, he just wanted to run away. Suddenly, he remembered John Jae-jung's image, but it was precisely the courage to take a step forward in moments like this that created true strength. If you run away, you'll spend your life chasing after someone else's shadow. After convincing himself, he smirked, "I will become a true hero." Immediately, Kim Sang-gu spoke up. "Over there are my teammates. I will lead the A formation to break through with strength." At that moment, the pigs kept falling. Kim Sang-gu charged forward alone, not forgetting to command, "Break through with strength." The teammates immediately felt reassured. The captain is leading. Kim Sang-gu led the charge, taking down each pig, while his teammates followed closely behind him, nearing the king pig. Kim Sang-gu looked at the weapon in his hand and thought, "It's too much. I've reached my mana limit." Even so, he reminded himself, but there's no time to stand still. His teammates were also helping him deal with the remaining pigs, reminding him, Captain, the kingpin is coming. Kim Sang-gu decisively charged towards the king pig, thinking that his teammates were behind him, and they kept coming relentlessly. He tightened his grip on his weapon. He tried to channel all the remaining mana into it, constantly thinking, I will crush everything. I will clear the way. With that thought, he decisively thrust his weapon forward. Towards the king pig, his weapon flew like a spear straight into the mouth of the king pig, then exploded its entire body. The giant pig vanished in an instant. On the side of the king pig, your weapon shot like a spear straight into its mouth, and then it shattered the entire giant pig, which vanished in an instant. The weapon returned to Kim Sang-gu's hand as he gripped it tightly, feeling his power surging. Then he turned and shouted, This isn't the time for that. Cheers. Get the injured out of here, and bring those who are still panicking back to the main army. His teammates looked back in confusion as another terrifying creature charged out from the gate. Kim Sang-gu opened his eyes wide and quickly ordered, Damn it! Prepare for full defense again. Get ready to fall back when I signal. As the king pig landed, it let out a roar. Sang-gu began calculating the bin creatures. We just need to hold on. The association must have noticed this situation by now. Reinforcements will be here soon. But how much longer can we hold out? Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew through, freezing the air. Kim Sang-gu looked around cautiously, and his teammates were also bewildered, staring at the space that had turned completely white. The ferocious pigs seemed to have lost all their strength, and the king pig looked confused, its body weakening right after. The clear sky appeared, and Kim Sang-gu gasped, What the hell? The monster has disappeared. But then he immediately ran to his teammate. Manhua, can you get up? Kim Manhua, after being helped up, also looked confused, touching his wound. Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know what happened, but aside from the burn, I'm okay. Kim Sang-gu didn't say much, putting his arm around him. We need to retreat now. He turned back and ordered, Get out of this dungeon as fast as you can. Everyone replied in unison, Yes. Still, Kim Sang-gu couldn't help but frown, wondering what on earth had just happened. From above, Cheon-ho silently watched them leave. The voice of John Jong flooded back that reckless guy. Please keep an eye on him for me. He sighed, suddenly recalling what he had said back then. He sat down, talking to himself. After all, there won't be anyone on this land. Knowing who I truly am, because where absolute immortal power appears, there may be some disturbances, but just consider it the price to pay for saving my life today. Cheon-ho observed Kim Sang-gu below, wondering more importantly. He said he was a second tier, but after this battle, he has reached the level of a master in his profession. So, now South Korea has someone awakened at the first tier. Just then his stomach growled. Cheon-ho had no choice but to say, Let's eat first. A little later, at another place, Cheon-ho set up a fire and reminded Khan, The fire isn't strong enough yet. Wait a moment. He then brought a bundle of firewood from another space. Khan looked confused, furrowing his brow and casting a scrutinizing glance at Cheon-ho. How many years does it take for this body to master martial arts and become a sword saint while also holding the power of rebirth? Just how strong is that guy? Cheon-ho, of course, sensed the look in his eyes. What are you thinking so deeply about? Khan, feeling guilty, shifted his gaze. Nothing at all. Kyun had also woken up by now. Its eyes sparkled as it looked at the fire in front of it, reaching out its hand and suddenly calling forth the spirit. Khan was about to ask Kyun, but as soon as the spirit appeared, it snapped its fingers. A downpour immediately poured down on the two of them. After the fire was extinguished, the rain also stopped. From start to finish, the two could only feel helpless. Cheon-ho calmly said, I'll go find more firewood. A little later, a table full of pork was served, featuring grilled pork belly from the king pig. Khan, still unaware, happily grabbed some grilled meat, thanking for the meal. John-ho suddenly called out, Wait! Khan froze, watching him put the pork into the lettuce. What are you doing? John-ho carefully replied, This is called a meat roll, as he took the roll and stuffed it straight into his mouth. His eyes immediately lit up. So delicious. Cheon-ho paused for a moment before asking, What about you? Are you still investigating the dungeon? Khan honestly replied, Yeah, whenever I have free time besides working at the restaurant or taking care of Kyun, I always go investigate. Why do you ask? Cheon-ho responded, Today in the dungeon at the Mana Mine in Incheon, I saw a large herd of pigs. They are a combat type. Khan casually remarked, Those giant pigs are evolving to adapt. With the ecosystem, isn't that completely possible? Cheon-ho emphasized again. They grow rapidly in just a few days, but even those that develop to that extent still can't compare to what we saw on the Espan continent when the water rift opened to another dimension. That energy isn't from the Espan continent. Khan looked astonished at that. Cheon-ho nodded, expressing his speculation. Perhaps Earth has also connected to another dimension, not just the ESPN continent. There's something beyond our understanding happening. The Awakening Association of Korea, the man said as he placed the report down. It's truly amazing. Kim Sang-gu calmly emphasized, since that blinding light appeared. The monsters seem to have completely vanished, even the boss monsters. Ayu Jin-soo stated a fact. Gabby echoed the same sentiment, making Kim Sang-gu even more confused. Oh my god, what on earth happened? Ayu Jisoo suddenly said, Anyway, congratulations. You've reached the level of a master class. You're about to become a level 4 awakener in Korea. How does that feel? Kim Sang-gu still showed no joy, asking directly, That's great news, but will my salary increase? Ayu Jisoo set down his coffee cup. Of course. Kim Sang-gu replied vaguely, What's the point of a raise if I don't have time to spend it? Ayu Jisoo quickly caught on. Do you want me to give you a few days off? He humbly replied, No need, you know how busy the rainy season is. Just make sure my team gets extra bonuses. Ayu Jisoo suddenly asked a question. Have you chosen your next class yet? Kim Sang-gu decisively said, Yes, I've chosen Steel Heart. Steel Heart grants 2 lives and significantly increases overall durability. He clenched his fist determined, Once I master this class, my whole body will be as tough as steel. Images of the recent battle flashed in his mind, charging straight into the enemy lines, betting his life like before. That can't happen again. Last time was luck. Otherwise, I would have been dead. With the role of a tank and damage dealer of Steel Heart, at least I can buy time for everyone. Ayu Jisoo couldn't help but nod. That's a wise choice, but still take a little break. Gabby is handling the mine investigation, so head back. Hearing that Kim Sang-gu quickly stood up, I was just about to leave, old man. Yu Jisoo helplessly reminded him, Watch your mouth. Later in the elevator, he kept thinking about that beam of light. I didn't sense any malice from that beam of light. On the contrary, it gives off a warm feeling, as if something is drawing me closer, just like what happened at Bento last time. Could it be some mysterious force at play? Or maybe someone out there is helping us, and the event at Bento in the Chung Point of the Obsidian Mine is the source of an unprecedented power, he concluded. Now all I can do is hope that this power will never turn against us. At the barbecue spot, I poured a glass of wine to my lips, but paused, calling out, Cheon-ho. Cheon-ho, I hesitated and asked Khan directly, Is the Demon King strong? Cheon-ho, sipping his drink, casually replied, Of course. He really is powerful, but I'm stronger. Khan then asked, Do you hate the Demon King? Cheon-ho honestly admitted he did hate him. There was a time when he felt that way, and memories flooded back after he was summoned to that world. The loved ones who helped him adapt were injured and killed by the Demon King's army because of his power. He swore he would stop them. Years of bloodshed when everything finally ended. None of my friends are by my side anymore, thinking about those things. His gaze turned cold. I had hated the Demon King, the ruler of this world, who summoned me to this dimension. Why did I ever hate him? Cheon-ho smiled at this moment, recalling that the Demon King once said he too was summoned by someone. Emphasizing to Khan's bewildered face, he said, summoned, in the literal sense. Someone called him to the continent of Espen, and someone else summoned me as well. Khan couldn't believe it. Could that really happen? Summoning the Demon King, then you wonder how you came back. While Cheon-ho fell silent for a moment, I had traveled the world for 15 years. Time passed, and I began to feel despair surpassing those long years. A tear in the fabric of space appeared right before my eyes, and I saw modern buildings. He raised his glass, saying, I returned through that portal. Incredible, right? But it's the truth, Khan's steady voice rang out. I believe you. I believe you, he said sincerely to Chian-ho, who looked taken aback. You've been through so much. John-ho smiled. This is nothing. Then they clinked their glasses together. His thoughts surfaced. Yes, I still hate the Demon King, but at the same time, I also feel pity for him. Thrown into a strange world. It's an unbearable loneliness in the dark, a voice calling out, Miro, Miro Rakas. I often have nightmares about war, watching my loved ones die. It hurts so much, like each nail being driven into my heart. Repeating every day those nails. So terrible, and they hurt horribly. I had to rely on many things to survive, like alcohol. At least if I got drunk, I could sleep. If I weren't strong enough, I might have gone crazy a long time ago. Or maybe I already have right now. Chian-ho jolted awake, sweat pouring down his body. Another nightmare. He looked at Kyun beside him, then froze, gently shifting to avoid waking Kyun, wondering, when did I roll over here to sleep? Looking down under the bed, he felt helpless as he saw him sleeping in that strange position again. But then John-ho coughed and smiled, relieved that it was just an ordinary morning. A little later, he slowly went down the stairs when a voice called out, Hey, young man. John-ho was surprised, thinking young man. Still, he spoke up. Yes, ma'am, I'm your grandson. The old lady asked, Excuse me, which way to the Ararang train? John-ho thought he must have misheard. Yes, yes. He frowned, wondering if that train really existed. The old lady saw him thinking and felt a bit disappointed. You don't know, oh dear. What should I do if no one knows? Then she mumbled and walked away. Oh my, oh my. A little later, Chian-ho returned to the shop, still thinking about the old lady. He had never seen her around here before. What is the Ararang train anyway? Maybe I should ask Cho-ra next time. I should probably open the door before it's too late. A little later, the shop was cleaned up. John-ho was doing some odd jobs when someone walked in. Good morning, boss. John-ho nodded. Good morning, Choi John-won. Suddenly, he sat down and asked, The weather is nice today, isn't it? What do we have on the menu? John-ho replied, I'm still preparing, so for now, I can just make a simple fried rice. Hearing that, he was delighted. Awesome. A little later, it started to rain. Choi Jong-hun looked up at the raindrops through the window, seeming to realize that the rainy season had truly begun. Today must be crazy busy, oh dear, Chian-ho thought while cooking inside. It must be because of the help I gave this time. A little later, he brought out a plate of rice. The fried rice is ready. Choi Zion looked at the plate of rice and remembered something. That's right, recently. The old lady from Ararang has been wandering around this area. John-ho felt a sense of familiarity. The old lady from Ararang. Choi Zion nodded. You probably haven't heard, huh? She's an elderly woman who often picks up cardboard around here. And her mental state isn't very stable. Have you met her? Chian-ho replied. Yes, she stopped by the shop earlier wearing a scarf even in the summer. She asked where the Ararang train is. Do you know what that is? Choi Zion, while eating, replied, Actually, no one knows. Then he paused. Even though life today is better, it wasn't like that before. Many people have lost loved ones, and there are also quite a few who can't bear it. Saying that, he stood up. It's best to just let things be. I'm off. Chian-ho nodded. Be careful on the way. When he was alone, he stared blankly outside. The world was in a phase of transition, and time was passing. Yet the truth about each person's life remained unchanged. Today's world still bore the scars of the past, so the guests passing by, including that old lady, must all be living with their own wounds. At that moment, he could only think about that. To let everything pass, Chian-ho was quietly brushing his teeth when Khan's excited voice rang out. Good job. He walked into the room and saw Khan with a flushed face from the cold. He was continuously cheering, Good job, Kyun. That's right. Kyun is now wrapped in layers of cold stone, and when it disappears, Kyun transforms into another shape. Khan feels sad and defeated. Chian-ho isn't too surprised. It's another failure. He wonders if transforming also requires a secret technique. Khan replies, Yes, it does. Once you've done it, once you won't forget it. It's just hard until you succeed the first time. Chian-ho strokes his chin, thinking maybe he should try dressing the girl in some clothes. He then takes his shirt and wraps it around Kyun, watching her play with it, and he thinks. Sure enough, the girl is really big. When she transforms completely, she will probably look like a 5-year-old. Suddenly, Kyun enters transformation mode, her tiny hands trembling. Then fingers sprout out, and finally she becomes a complete little girl. Cheon-ho can't help but be amazed. He sits down, arms wide open, waiting for Kyun to reach out. Suddenly, the little girl slips. Cheon-ho quickly catches her, supporting her as she joyfully bursts into laughter. He is a bit dazed, and Khan happily lifts her up. "Jewel, you did it?" He smiles with delight, telling Cheon-ho it's still too early for her to wander out there. But she has successfully transformed. "That's definitely my little sister." He looks over and smiles, softly replying, "Yes, it is." Saying that, he sits up. "We should start preparing food. And you find a suitable outfit for Goon to wear." Hearing this suggestion, he finally pays attention and replies, Right. Outside, the sky is gloomy and the rain is pouring down. At this moment, Jian-ho steps outside with an umbrella in hand. He looks up at the sky and sighs. "It just keeps raining. I still have some pork tenderloin left to make sweet and sour ribs." At this moment, he sees the silhouette of an old woman standing nearby. He politely walks over to greet her. "Hello, ma'am." The old woman turns around at the greeting. "Hello, it's raining so hard. Can I stay for a bit?" Seeing that she seems cold standing outside like that, he immediately offers, "Of course, please come in for some tea." She hurriedly declines. "No, it's fine. In this rain, I really have to hurry." Hearing her voice, he feels a bit suspicious. It's strange, didn't she used to speak in the local dialect? Shaking off his thoughts, he hands his umbrella to the old woman. "At least take this, please." She happily accepts it. "Oh my, thank you." Then she takes the umbrella, promising, "I will definitely bring this back to you. Do you sell jjajangmyeon?" He is a bit surprised. "Jjajangmyeon." Then he turns back inside, saying, "Right now, I don't have the ingredients. Let me check." He didn't expect her to leave without going inside. Without looking back, he mutters, "Oh, that's really strange." The sound from the radio crackles, and it seems this rain will last into the rainy season. He must be careful of the monsters underwater. A prime example is the Kelpie, which is usually a low-level monster, a D, but when it rains, it can level up to a 7 with the sound of a beer glass being slammed down by a man on the table. He shouted loudly, "Boss, yay!" while crying in his drunken state, asking, "How can I attract a woman?" Cheon-ho found it hard to understand. Kim-hun continued to drink steadily since he was with Lee Gabby, folding his arms as he watched the drunken man in front of him thinking about before he was summoned to another world. "I've only ever dated one girlfriend." At this moment, Kim-hun spoke up. "You see, this is actually a secret. About 2 years ago, a hidden boss appeared in a newly discovered dungeon, and she saved me back then. My ideal type is a strong woman. Strong women are very attractive. First of all, how should I put it? Strong women are cool and wild, and they are beautiful," he replied. "I understand." He looked at his expression and laughed. "Even the boss feels the same way, huh?" Cheon-ho didn't respond. He lowered his head, thinking, "I get what you mean because I've been there too. The strongest, the gentlest, and the most beautiful, Miro Rikus." He glanced over at him. Kim-hun was still rambling. "Anyway, since then, I've secretly liked her. But she's really sharp. You're quite charming. Let me guess, you're talking about the one who went with you last time, right?" He, with a tearful expression, rebutted, "What, that person resembles my mother more. I actually prefer women who treat me a bit harshly, but she absolutely hates guys like me. If I cling to her one more time, that would probably be my death day. Now, whenever she sees me, she says she wants to tear me apart piece by piece, asking who her ideal type is. Then she said, 'Is Sang-hoo still sober?' Those two argue and bicker every day." Cheon-ho shook his head in exasperation, thinking, "Even so, Kim Sang-hoo is quite likable." Suddenly he said, "This is absolutely a secret. You know that, right?" He expressed a smile, replying, "Yes." Kim-hun shook his empty glass loudly, saying, "Boss, give me another bottle of beer." At this moment, the radio continued to play. Due to the prolonged rain, the renovation of the resting tomb in the north, the Demon Thunder, is being carried out urgently. Please do not visit during this time. Both of them were taken aback. Cheon-ho spoke up first. "What is the resting tomb?" Kim-hun sighed, answering his question. "Oh, don't. That's a cemetery for victims from the past. There were too many casualties back then, and recovering the bodies wasn't easy. So they cremated them and engraved their names, creating a communal cemetery." Suddenly, a bell rang as a girl with golden hair walked in, greeting them. Her expression was serious, awakening the second-level queen of the Blade Lee Jun. She spoke up and then saw a familiar figure. "Hello, this place is indeed like a gust of wind." She quickly rushed over and grabbed Kim Hun's shirt. "Are you drinking again, you jerk?" He faced her furious, fiery expression and stammered, "Why are you here?" She grabbed his head and scolded, "Stop messing around. Come with me right now. Why are you out drinking alone in the middle of the night and bothering people?" Suddenly, Kim Hun no longer looked scared, but stared at her in a daze. "See?" She was so alluring that this made her even angrier. She didn't say anything and decisively dragged him away. As Kim Hun was being pulled away, he didn't forget to wave at Cheon Ho. "Boss, thank you today." He reminded him, "Be careful out there." Under the rain, there were two figures, one tall and one short, sharing an umbrella. One was clinging to the other, while the other looked disdainful. Cheon Ho watched them and thought, "Is that June the Queen of the Blade? Let me clean up first." As he turned away, he overheard their conversation. "But Yuna, why did you come?" "Don't tell me." "Shut up. That's an order from the higher-ups. The Kelpies have shown up in the city center. What is she saying?" The Kelpies always appear around this time. This time there are too many, and the reports of civilian casualties are skyrocketing. They're particularly aggressive. Something's off. Something's definitely off. He looks at the rain, lost in thought, feeling a bad omen. The downpour shows no signs of letting up. Inside the house, the little girl Kyun is struggling to reach something high up with her tiny frame. Just then, Jeon Ho steps over, lifting her up again, sneaking down here to steal supplies. Again, huh? The girl being held happily babbles, "Daddy," and he smiles, doting on her, unable to hide his tail and wings. Then he ponders that one day Joel will return to the Edpan continent too. The girl wriggles in his arms, beaming as she reaches out to him. He hugs her affectionately, soothing her, and he pushes aside his unhappy thoughts. Until then, I need to cook a lot of delicious dishes and create many joyful memories. Just then, hearing a bell, he quickly tucked the girl under the counter, whispering, "You have to stay quiet here. No customers come in this early." Yet I let my guard down. He stood up abruptly. "Hello," only to find it was the old lady from earlier. "There you are. Oh, what a relief. Just one bowl of jjajangmyeon. How long did it take?" He replied, "It'll take a little while. Please come in first." She said, "Oh dear, I'm in a hurry." He turned back, slightly suspicious. Her accent was different from last time. Could it be a sign? The status screen shows her career path leaning towards a civilian achievement. She's 100% a regular person, not an awakened one. But the note about her ability memory loss. Many people have lost loved ones, so there are many who can't bear the mental strain. Even magic healing from another world can't cure that. If it could, I wouldn't be having nightmares anymore. With no other option, I can only repay her with delicious food. The ingredients for the jjajangmyeon I saved last time suddenly made her exclaim in surprise, "Oh my!" What amazed her was little Kyun with her adorable appearance. She stammered, "Is this the girl?" He was taken aback, and the old lady curiously asked, "What is this?" Cheon Ho was flustered, sweating profusely. The old lady looked at Kyun in astonishment, while the little girl was also curiously exploring her. Meanwhile, Kang Cheon Ho was about to find an excuse to explain who this child was. Just then, the bell rang, cutting him off. "Oh my, what is this puppy doing here?" Kang Cheon Ho was surprised, thinking to himself, "A puppy." The little Kyun jumped into Grandma Arirang's arms, making her extremely happy and adorable, just like my Bigu. "What's its name?" the little one proudly replied. "Kyun." Grandma Arirang quickly clapped her hands in praise, saying how wonderful it was that it could even talk. Just then Khan appeared, looking pale, and called out, "John Ho, why is Kyun with a human?" "Is this really okay?" John Ho pondered for a moment, but then looked at the two playing happily outside. He replied, "It's fine, just keep a close eye on them, and don't let any other customers in." Meanwhile, Grandma Arirang was still happily praising, "So cute, so well-behaved." At that moment, Jeon Ho turned back to the kitchen, thinking about the dish that had just been ordered. "Now I should just cook some jjangmyeon, right?" As he pulled out a piece of fresh meat, along with other ingredients, he felt a bit nostalgic. It was a popular dish that could be found everywhere back then. But now it's become rare due to the difficulty in sourcing ingredients. He carefully checked each type of seasoning for the dish first, determining whether it was Chinese or Japanese style. He would need chunrang, a type of fermented black soybean paste that he made himself. Making these sauces is harder and more troublesome than you might think. Then he reached up to the cupboard to grab a pack of noodles. The next issue was the noodles. There was a noodle shop, but the customers said they were in a hurry, so he would use instant fried noodles instead. Soon after, the stove was lit and the ingredients were skillfully handled by him. They blended together as he stir-fried the soybean paste, becoming thick and sticky like wet charcoal powder. If it looks glossy, that means it's ready. Next, he boiled the noodles and added them to the meat. And the onions that had been stir-fried with the soybean paste and starch were simmered on low heat with a pan of soy sauce and a pan of noodles finally served together on a plate of jangmyeon with pork. The pork was fatty and rich. As he brought the noodles out of the kitchen, Grandma Arirang was still happily playing with Kyun. Oh dear, all right then. All right, he had to get her attention. Excuse me, Grandma. Your jangmyeon is ready. Grandma Arirang immediately turned back, startled, exclaiming, "Oh my, I really am forgetful. I should take it right away. My grandchild is waiting. I need to hurry." Outside. John Ho gently replied, "I understand, Grandma." Then please wait a moment, and quickly returned to the kitchen to package the noodles. A moment later, he handed her a carefully wrapped bundle. "I've wrapped it in plastic wrap, but left the 8 intact, so please be careful not to break it. Remember to return the 8 next time you come by." She took the bundle of noodles from his hands, happily thanking him. "Thank you so much. This is 1,001. John Ho looked at the bill in his hand, feeling a bit nostalgic. 1,001, huh? It had been a long time since he had seen both of them. He walked to the door to see her off. Goodbye. After that, Grandma Arirang occasionally came to buy jangmyeon to take home, and each time she brought food, it was a different person. Sometimes it was an old man, and other times she said it was for her grandchild. The 8 were never returned, but knowing it wasn't intentional, he quietly placed another 8 plates. John Ho stepped out of the shop, nodding to the owner. "Well, thank you." After walking a few steps, a sign pointing to the cemetery caught his attention as he passed by the neatly arranged graves. In the distance, he saw a girl crying sadly. He sighed, thinking, "Of course there's no way my parents' grave would be here." Suddenly, an exasperated voice cut through his thoughts. "Come on now. Grandma, what am I supposed to do if you keep this up?" He glanced over and saw Grandma Arirang arguing with the cemetery caretaker. "Why are you stopping me?" "I still have to bring this to my grandson and my husband." The other person awkwardly replied, "But ma'am, this is a cemetery." "I still have to bring this to my nephew and my husband." The other person replied awkwardly, "This is really a cemetery, you know." Then he pointed to a bowl of black bean noodles placed on several graves, exclaiming, "You can't leave food here. Look, it's attracting insects, plus you can't sleep or stay here. You'll catch a cold," he said, turning away. Coldly making a final decision, he added, "Oh, come on if you don't clean this up today." "I'll throw everything away. I'm serious." Cheon Ho looked at the shabby hut nearby, wondering if she lived there. Inside, something caught his eye, a faded photo of Arirang. At that moment, she sighed in frustration and slowly walked into the hut, lifting the photo and carefully wiping it clean. Cheon Ho looked at the smile on her face, feeling a surge of empathy. People don't just smile when they're happy. When they're truly in pain, they don't shed tears either. Instead, they smile with that thought in mind. He also noticed the forced smile spreading across her face. "Arirang, that's why I used to smile like that. I was just like that back then." Smiling like that had gradually become a habit for him, and he thought about it before quietly leaving. That night, it rained heavily inside the house. Kyun excitedly looked at the rain outside and shouted, while Cheon Ho turned to Khan, saying, "We need to buy clothes for the girl soon." The rain was pouring so hard that the window couldn't be opened. He seemed quite optimistic, replying, "At least she has something to wear, right?" Then he hurriedly ran to shout at the little girl, "Don't drink the rainwater." Meanwhile, Cheon Ho calmly stood aside, commenting, "Look at how much she loves the rain. She's really like a dragon fruit." Just then, a warning message from the radio blared. "Please be cautious of kelpies during heavy rain. If you encounter a kelpie, immediately retreat to a dry place. Please report to the security camp or our association. Again, this is a kelpie warning." Cheon Ho quickly instructed Khan, "Watch the house." "Okay." Outside, the rain poured down like a waterfall. Cheon Ho stepped onto the rooftop railing, thinking to himself, "I'm not sure, but I have a bad feeling." He used his strength to leap up high. He dashed through the heavy rain while elsewhere, Arirang stood in shock in front of a strange train track. "Where am I?" She looked around in confusion and soon saw a sign for the train station, Ararang Gondojak boarding area. She was surprised, wondering if she had finally found the station. Just then, a train slowly entered the station, quickly stopping in front of her. When the train door opened, a man stood ready, extending his hand towards her. His voice was distant, urging, "Let's go." Arirang looked at him, playfully teasing, "Honestly, no matter how well you dress, you can't hide that rural smell." Just then, a childish voice suddenly rang out. "Grandma!" She turned to see a child running towards her, exclaiming, "Yunho, my puppy! It's a mate, Simon!" But then she hesitated. "Yunho, why does my child look like that?" Before she could finish her thought, she felt confused, wondering why she couldn't remember. Along with two blurry figures in front of her, she thought to herself that at some point her memories began to fade and the world became blurry like a faded photo. Once again, that voice urged, "Let's go." At that moment, she was shocked to realize she couldn't remember anything, just like always, like a black and white photograph. Outside, a gigantic horseshoe stepped into a puddle, and a kelpie in the shape of a horse suddenly appeared behind her while she was still asleep. It bent down to sniff her, then suddenly opened its mouth wide, revealing its sharp teeth to bite down. But at that moment, Cheon-ho delivered a punch that shattered half of its upper body. He muttered softly, "I knew it." Looking at the pile of broken chopsticks scattered outside, he thought to himself while eating, "Oh man, I accidentally saw her." Luckily, I arrived just in time. Chaotic sounds echoed from afar, and Cheon-ho's figure vanished like an illusion as the crowd rushed in. He was once again suspended in the air, listening to their shouts. "Hurry up! Grandma Ararang is coming quick!" The cemetery guard just ran over, looking around in panic. "I'm sure I saw a kelpie manifesting here." Kim Sang-gu picked up the crystal and looked into the puddle in front of him, deducing from the low-grade mana stones and the traces around it that it had definitely been here. He glanced at the small puddle created by the kelpie, wondering to himself if a kelpie could manifest in such a small puddle. It must be quite strong. Could it be another type of unknown power? He thought this, but quickly ordered the others to follow him. Anyway, it's a relief. We should take Grandma away first. There might still be a kelpie around here. The others nodded in agreement, and Grandma Arirang was quickly carried away by them. In her subconscious, she kept crying out, "Yunho, my dear, let's go, let's go." Inside the tent, the photo of the three of them together lay shattered on the ground as the rain stopped. Grandma John-ho was in the kitchen, looking up to greet someone at the door. Grandma Arirang wore a traditional hanbok and replied to him, "Hello," handing him a few broken chopsticks. "I'm sorry, these are the chopsticks you gave me, and they broke. So I prepared some new ones. During that time, you must have gone through quite a bit of trouble. I'm sorry," Cheon-ho politely replied. "It's okay." He suddenly noticed the new clothes she was wearing. Curious, he asked, "Where are you planning to go?" Grandma Arirang smiled and nodded. "Uh-huh." Hearing this, John-ho fell silent for a moment before suggesting, "Wherever you go, let's have a meal first." He took the chopsticks into the kitchen, thought for a moment, and then asked her, "How about jongmyeon?" She happily agreed, "That sounds delicious." He carefully checked the ingredients. There was enough, and the noodles were fried like ramen, but in the middle of it, he suddenly thought of something. Turning to Grandma Arirang, he asked, "Are you busy?" She quickly replied, "No, I'm not busy." Cheon-ho smiled back. "Then please wait a little longer. Today, I'll make handmade noodles." He quickly started kneading the dough. While reconsidering the method to make handmade noodles properly, he realized it needed a long resting time for the dough, but he couldn't do that now. Thinking this, he quickly cut the noodles. They would come out like noodles cut with a knife. At least they would have a better texture than instant fried noodles. In no time, he brought the dish to Grandma Arirang. "Here's a bowl of jongmyeon ready." She looked at the delicious steaming bowl of noodles in front of her and exclaimed in surprise, "What is this?" She gazed at the noodles, reminiscing about a long-ago memory. "I used to farm. Life was always busy. Though it was hard, it was also very rewarding." She recalled the time spent with her husband and slowly shared, "My husband was from the countryside, but was a good man. He spoke with a Seoul accent. So I learned to speak like that too." Gradually, it became more familiar than my local dialect, and memories shifted to a different time when every week my husband and I would take our grandchild to the nearby market. And we always ate jangmyeon. Cheon-ho softly agreed, "So that's how it is." As she stared at the noodles, still immersed in her memories, responding with a yes, every time she saw the boy eating. Just watching was enough to make us happy. Suddenly, her voice turned sad again, but now, I couldn't remember the faces of my husband or my grandson anymore. It felt so empty. Chian-ho silently listened to her words echoing in his ears. I never wanted to forget, yet I kept forgetting. That's why I felt scared. Kyun suddenly appeared, calling out to her. Grandma Arirang saw the cheerful girl running over and turned to suggest to Chian-ho, "Can we give this child some jangmyeon?" He quickly agreed, "I'll make another serving," and soon brought over another bowl of jangmyeon that was ready. This made the girl cheer joyfully, and Grandma Arirang's earlier sadness was also chased away by her. Laughing happily, she praised, "Oh my, how adorable." The girl pulled 2 plates of noodles closer eagerly, urging, "Grandma, let's eat." She hurriedly nodded at the girl. All right. But when she picked up the chopsticks, she hesitated. Kyun, seeing this, innocently asked her, "Aren't you going to eat? And why is there a smile covered in black sauce? This dish is really delicious." Grandma Arirang saw the girl's expression and gently agreed. Yes, this jangmyeon is truly delicious. Just a moment later, both bowls of noodles were empty, and she turned to Chian-ho. The owner calculated the bill and then asked her back, "Are you leaving right now?" Grandma Arirang looked out the window and softly whispered, "It's almost time for the train." Chian-ho whispered, "I understand." Grandma Arirang then asked him about the bill, and he firmly replied, "It's free." She was surprised to hear that. "What do you mean?" His gentle answer made her even more astonished. "At our place, anyone about to depart gets a free meal right after." She responded to him with a bright smile. "Oh, thank you so much. Take care." He watched her solitary figure and thought to himself along that path. There were so many people walking on their own journeys. He suddenly remembered Cha and Kim Mijin. Kim Man-ho, the path of a father living fiercely for his daughter. He recalled the lonely back of a man, the path of a weary old hero who had retreated into seclusion, or a girl standing amidst the ruins turning her back to the light, and the path of a pure man lost in love. Chian-ho held Kyun, who was still innocently waving at her. "Goodbye, Grandma." But today, that was her path, embarking on her own journey, saying goodbye to Grandma Arirang, who was still desperately chasing after that train. She anxiously called out as she saw the train pass her by. Wait! She was in such a hurry that she even dropped a shoe, but in her heart she always wondered why she... "Do you think we can make it to the train like this?" She was almost exhausted, whispering to wait a moment, when suddenly a familiar voice echoed in her ears. Mom, behind the train window are familiar faces smiling and calling out, "Mom, can you recognize those joyful faces?" There's my first daughter, then my second son, and the youngest one along with the bright face of a child. Dad, oh, she's so happy to see her grandchild. Now I remember. Everything is gradually coming back, clearer than ever. The train door opens again, and the man in the suit has been waiting there for a long time, gently calling out, "My love." Finally, she can see his face and hear his gentle greeting. It must have been tough, right? He reaches out his hand towards her. "Let's go." Mrs. Arirang smiles happily, taking his hand. A guard rushes over to Mrs. Arirang, who is collapsing by the roadside. "Mom, oh no!" He calls out in panic, shaking her. "Mom, wake up." Immediately, he realizes she has passed away, a satisfied smile on her lips. She had gone everywhere asking about the Arirang train, and finally she really got on board. Right, the guard looks at the bowl of black bean noodles wrapped on the grave, surprised, wondering if someone just came and went. Up in the high sky, Chian-ho is silently looking down. He thinks to himself, you can't hold on to someone who's truly ready to leave. If I want to prolong life, then right now, I could do it as much as I want, but sometimes continuing to live must also have an end, just like now. At the same time, in the Genkaku office in Seoul, Kim Sang-gu is having a headache, thinking something is happening. Someone in Seoul is plotting something dangerous, an existence beyond everyone's imagination. Silent and strange, full of mystery, with no weaknesses. Thinking of this, he suddenly jolts. Wait, there's someone who can do all of this. No way. Kim Sang-gu recalls the silhouette of the mysterious man from the past. Could it be that what disappeared during the monster invasion 15 years ago has returned? But then he dismisses it. No. It must have been with the boss I tried to kill using the spatial rift to move. It has escaped countless deaths. On paper, he is one of the few awakened ones. Level 1 in Korea, and people say he is still alive, but the association has assumed he wouldn't come back. He can't help but wonder, could it be? Has the association been secretly holding a level 0 awakened one all this time? Finally, Kim Sang-gu, frustrated, throws all the papers on the table, shouting out loud. He can't help but continue thinking about that Mana crystal mine incident. High-level monsters began to spill out from those rifts. It was the prelude to another great invasion. Kim Sang-gu buries his face in his hands, groaning, "Why do I have to worry about so many things?" But he quickly pulls himself together. Let's handle the most urgent matters first. Indeed, the source of all the recent incidents is his younger brother, a level 1 awakened one Ryerson at the Korean Awakening Association. The secretary brings some documents to IU Jisoo. Here are the graduates for this semester. He casually takes them to see. In his hands are the files of 3 students. He curiously asks, are these 3 the new recruits? He can't help but think of the words he heard. The graduates from the Shifu school this first quarter are all outstanding among them, a special trio known as the 3 new recruits. The first file is of a girl, the third-rate awakening of the recovery system, Kim Mi-jin. I remember seeing her in a newspaper, and it's clear that her abilities will likely be upgraded to rank 2 this year. She's 17 years old. And the desired area is CEO Demon, so her father is in the Sangu team, right? She's the daughter of Sexy, and finally, regarding Mi-jin's profile, a decision was made. However, the gene responsible for CEO Demon has already had a recovery system awakening. It's such a pity, but it would be better to send her to the gentleman at Chelcho. The secretary quickly replied, "Yes, understood." Then he looked back at the profile of a male student. Next is a 20-year-old merchant with a third-rate awakening of the fire system, Lai Zam Young. He assigned the area he registered for as Hongdi. Therefore, coincidentally, the trading line of the Sword Queen has an opening, so we can send him there. But when he got to the last profile, Yugisu also felt a bit of a headache. The issue lay with the last rookie. In his hands was the profile of a blonde male student with a rather inappropriate photo. He has a second-rate awakening of the close combat system Ryusen. He has the potential to develop into a werewolf, and he's nicknamed Werewolf. He then looked at the special case notes. There are 2 special notes. The first note is, he is the biological younger brother of the first-rate awakening Riing, who went missing 15 years ago. The second note is, he was frustrated holding his bald head. This damn secretary is causing trouble again. Right. She maintained her calm demeanor and replied, "Yes, Chairman." He goes around challenging the leaders of mercenaries in every region, saying he will join the mercenary team of anyone who defeats him. IU Jisoo held his head and asked, "Oh no, my head hurts so much. What happened?" The secretary calmly narrated he has defeated the leaders of mercenaries in 4 places. Shinran, Ong Di Cello, and Gangbuk then proceeded to CEO Demon. IU Jinsu angrily cursed, "That bastard in this weather. What do you mean by wiping out the whole group?" On the bustling street, Chian Ho was intently looking at a meat stall. Today he planned to make spicy stir-fried meat, but the kingpin meat wasn't good, so he had to use another type. He wondered what kind of monster meat would be suitable. He looked at each type of meat on display pondering. Idaho and bento looked good. But why are there so many beachbik meats? Come here. He couldn't help but think of a pack of fierce pigs charging at him and wondered if Big Bick was appearing more frequently. If the ones he saw at the magical crystal mine appeared regularly, he silently decided that he needed to investigate this matter. Chian Ho was attracted by a roadside clothing stall. The cheerful shop owner welcomed him. "Please come in." He stepped forward and politely asked, "Hello, can a 5-year-old wear this?" The salesperson carefully replied, "Of course." "Is this for a princess or a prince?" Chian Ho hesitated slightly and replied, "For a little girl." He suddenly saw a young man shouting, "Get out here, Kang Hyo! I want to fight you." Chian Ho, blending into the crowd, thought to himself, "That Kang Hyo, he's the new captain of the mercenary team," replacing John Taejung after he retired. He was surprised and wondered, "So, who is that blonde guy?" Without making him wait, the other person pounded his chest and declared. After John Taejung retired, he was surprised and wondered who that blonde guy was. But before he could wait, that guy patted his chest and introduced himself. "I'm a second-rate awakened one Ryoshin. I'm the one who turned down the association's invitation and voluntarily became a mercenary." John Ho, speechless, introduced himself with such swagger. The younger generation these days is really hard to please. Ryosen keeps shouting for a challenge, saying, "If you can beat me, I'll join your mercenary team." And just like that, a door opened high above. A grumpy man said to him, "Hey, the kid, our captain, is the best." Ryushin fell silent for a moment, then boasted loudly, "Mercenaries all over the world fear me. Dung has retired and a coward has become the new captain." "So, you don't even need to look to know that." A tall man wielding a sword stomped heavily on the floor as he stepped out, irritated, cutting off whoever was causing a ruckus in broad daylight. The mercenary team's captain, Kang Hyuk Cheon, nodded in appreciation as soon as he saw the guy. He had a muscular build clearly fit to take over. John Taejun right. Over here, Kang Hyuk was getting annoyed, raising his voice at Ryujin. "Let me see who dares to casually call our old captain's name. Turns out it's just a kid. Damn it." He flipped the bird in challenge. "So you're Kang Hyo, let's have a match." The guy scoffed, turning away. "I'm not going to waste my time on pointless fights, kid. Get lost and go back to your neighborhood." But just then, a mocking voice rang out. "The tiger has retired, so the fox has taken over as captain." Ryosen was still smugly mocking. "Are you running away?" A sword swished past him. Kang Hyuk had drawn his sword, pointing it straight at him, angrily threatening, "I might just have to break that mouth of yours." Ryushin quickly transformed excitedly, exclaiming, "That's right. You should show yourself like this." He swiftly morphed into a fierce wolf, lunging forward. Just as Ryushin's claws reached Kang Hyo, a sharp wave of energy sliced between them. Kim Sang-gu just appeared, irritated, cursing this damn city. There's not a single peaceful day. Kang Hyuk looked at the spear stuck in the ground and immediately recognized its owner, Kim Sang-gu, who shouted angrily, "Stop right there!" Cheon Ho stood in the crowd whispering to himself, "This must be youth and passion." He looked at the three young people in front of him and sighed like sprouts emerging after the rain. The next generation is starting to take action. The three of them boldly marched in. Kim Sang-gu politely spoke up, "Hello, John Ho." A bit startled, he quickly responded, "Welcome." He glanced at the two Kang Hyuk and Ryushin, trailing behind, and asked Kim Sang-gu, "Did they just fight?" He smiled and replied, "Yes, if they used weapons, it would be against the rules. Using skills is also against the rules. So, who won?" Kim Sang-gu looked back at the two and vaguely answered, "Sometimes a fight is more about experience than strength." He then called out to the two, "Sit down," and turned to the chef. "Order some food." "Boss, bring us a few bottles of soju and some snacks, please." Cheon Ho cheerfully asked. "Sure, today we have spicy stir-fried pork. Is that okay?" Kim Sang-gu wasn't picky and immediately nodded. "Yes, that sounds great." Cheon Ho quickly got to work with the frying pan first, adding the pork belly. The pan was evenly coated with oil, and he started frying. Sometimes in a dish called stir-fried pork, people use more vegetables than meat, which is exactly what I hate the most. If it's spicy stir-fried pork, there definitely needs to be a lot of meat. The pieces of meat were fried to a golden brown, with the sauce looking incredibly appetizing. Cheon Ho continued cooking while thinking, "There are 3 big eaters here, so I'll make 5 portions." The pieces of meat were stir-fried to a golden brown with sauce looking incredibly appetizing. Cheon Ho continued to think while cooking that there were 3 hearty eaters here, so he should make 5 portions. After mixing gochujang soy sauce and sugar for the sauce, I added a bit of minced garlic and sesame oil. Finally, the dish was served on the table, stir-fried pork bichbik. Ryushin looked on in awe, but he quickly adjusted his expression, turning away with a frown. Kim Sang-gu let out a sigh and then calmly decided, "All right, you guys handle the rest. I'll pay up front and head out." Boss Cheon replied calmly, "Yeah, see you." But inside, he felt a bit regretful watching him leave, thinking to himself, "I made 5 portions on purpose, and now he's just gone." Both Ryushin and Kang Hyuk were also taken aback by that decisive action. Ryushin, looking flustered, spoke up, "I give up. I'll join your mercenary team." Kang Hyuk firmly rejected him. "We don't need you, so just get lost while I'm still being nice about it." Ryushin couldn't believe it and shouted, "Why don't you need me? The others do. I'm a second-tier awakener." Kang Hyuk nonchalantly corrected him. "Don't think that the world you live in is everything." Ryushin still seemed confused. "What do you mean?" Kang Hyuk maintained his indifferent attitude and replied, "What I mean is, you should go and learn that you're not as great as you think." The kid then turned his back and walked away. Chian-ho watched Ryu Shin muttering under his breath, "Damn it." But his gaze followed with admiration, thinking, "So cool." He immediately got up to chase after him. Please wait for me." Chian-ho looked at the two figures and shook his head helplessly. Yeah, it seems like this generation of mercenaries is going to be really strong. But he still couldn't shake off his worries about the issue. The stronger they get, the stronger the enemies will become. Chian-ho recalled some articles he had read. He couldn't help but feel anxious. The frequency of dungeon appearances must have definitely increased. He needed to investigate more thoroughly and pay more attention. But then he suddenly remembered his dish. "I made 5 portions, and in the end, no one touched it." The sun had risen outside, and Kyun stretched and woke up, noticing that Khan and Chian-ho were still asleep. She recalled Khan's words before sleeping, and after waking up, "I need to wash my face now." She happily called out some water spirits, and using their abilities, cleaned up. Just a little while later, she excitedly exclaimed, "All done," and even clapped for herself. "Good job, Kyun." She turned to pat Chian-ho, who was still sleeping. "Papa did great, too." She had already prepared her clothes and dashed down to the dining room. But suddenly she saw a bright red spatial gate. Kyun, puzzled, approached it, wondering what it was. Curiously, she reached out her hand and was instantly sucked in. In the room, only Kyun's shoe remained beside the eerie spatial gate. However, in a dark tunnel, Kyun was happily running around with the water spirits following her. "Let's play." "Let's play." A skull dropped right at Kyun's feet. She looked up in shock to find a giant crawling monster in front of her, flanked by 2 smaller ones wielding axes. Kyun was surprised, wondering about those monsters, and they let out threatening growls before charging at her. The water spirits on her body began to spread. Emitting waves of power while Kyun shouted, she also transformed and charged aggressively at those monsters. The next day, under Kyun's control, all 3 of those giant monsters were trapped in a water sphere, while the largest bull-headed monster thought to itself in disbelief, "No way." Meanwhile, the little girl was still extremely cheerful, shouting, "Good job, Kyun, you're so good." The monster looked at its 2 subordinates, easily defeated by her, and made a judgment. At the very least, it was a master at handling a high-level soul like this. He quickly made a decision. A dangerous factor, we need to eliminate it quickly. Just as he thought, he roared again and lunged forward. But when that monster stepped up, a fist punched through the wall beside him, reaching out to knock the bull-headed monster away. Chian-ho landed calmly, gently scolding Kyun. "You little troublemaker. I was wondering why I couldn't find you. Turns out you were here. Raising a child isn't easy." He then turned to the bull-headed monster. It hadn't seen him in a long time and looked up at him in confusion, then suddenly screamed, "Mirolikas!" Chian-ho rotated his fist coldly, confirming, "Your memory is better than that of a dragon. But I know you are one of those who came to the Aspal continent with the Demon King's army, right?" The monster panicked and denied it. "No, you must be mistaken." But he had already grabbed its horn with one hand, crushing it with a fierce gaze, intimidating the monster into confessing, "Yes, yes." Chian-ho continued to interrogate. "And when the Demon King escaped through the water space, you were the one who ran away with him, right? You went to the demon realm, didn't you?" The bull-headed monster, clutching its broken horn, trembled and replied, "Yes, that's right." He darkly stated, "You came back to this demon realm maze 15 years ago, and you never left." "That's the truth." Chian-ho continued in a deep voice, "You don't know any news about the demon realm. You don't even know the recent whereabouts of the Demon King." The bull-headed monster obediently answered, "The Demon King has been sleeping to regain his strength since he returned to the demon realm 15 years ago." Chian-ho's eyes emitted a purple energy. After that, he couldn't help but ponder. If that's true, then it must be right. The other monster, seeing him silent, nervously speculated, "Is this time to invade the demon realm?" Chian-ho calmly announced, "No. Rather, it seems that the entire maze has fallen into another dimension. This is not the demon realm, but a place called Earth. In the battle before, the Demon King did not die. No, he did not die to stop the Demon King, who possesses an immortal body. I have reached the master level in 6 systems. and I collaborated with the ancient dragon Aramis Rento to limit our strength just enough to force him into a semi-permanent death state. He recalled the moment he helplessly watched the Demon King escape. But whether by coincidence or fate, the Demon King rode the newly created water space and escaped. At that moment, Chion-ho suddenly noticed the monster stealthily preparing to flee. Minoto this one is not on the same level as the 4 great lords of the demon realm, but he is a strong boss. If something like this can get through, then there will definitely be something even stronger. He suddenly turned back to Kyun, noticing her stomach growling. "Are you hungry?" He then reached out to pick up Kyun, gently saying to her, "All right, let's get out of here." But he suddenly looked towards Minoto, startling it, making it even more frightened when he said, "I need your help with something."